A young woman collapses on the floor, trapped by raging flames engulfing her room. She reaches desperately towards the ceiling as the inferno consumes everything around her. Her final moments are a blur of shadow and flame, lost to the blaze. With a sharp ha, a girl with red hair jolts awake, her green eyes wide with terror. Gasping for breath, she sits up in bed, tears streaming down her face from the nightmare. In the quiet, moonlit room, she urges herself to stand on trembling legs. She manages to get to her feet, her small frame still shaking from the shock. She ventures downstairs and timidly greets a group of maids in the kitchen. A delicious meal of steak and potatoes is prepared, gleaming under the light. She stares at the food with a wistful expression, thinking how tasty it must be. Now dressed as a maid herself, she reveals she was reincarnated after her parents died near the Demon's Land and now works in her uncle's house. She laments her pathetic new life of starving in a cold room, feeling it was pointless to die, just to live again in misery. She remembers a crucial warning. Those discovered with memories of a past life face a terrible, unmentioned fate. A determined, worried look fills her eyes as she processes the danger she is in. While walking through a hall, she wonders if her nightmares are a warning and overhears a voice declare that a girl named Leticia is the inheritor of a mine. Leticia listens as a plan is discussed to use the inheritance money to fund an expedition into Monster's land to retrieve lost documents and become super rich. A woman furiously confronts a distraught man, blaming him for a deal that will force their daughters to marry a monster. Passing by, Leticia overhears two young women shouting that they refuse to go. She listens from the doorway as one of the daughters describes a terrifying rumor about the 3 demon grannies who sacrifice unmarried girls to demons. The man despairs over their 10-year search for a single scrap of paper, but his wife tells him to give up and listen to her. As she hesitates at the dining room door with food trays, a headmaid sternly asks what she's doing and why she isn't going in. The family's argument explodes as the daughters cry, accusing their father of selling them to a monstrous house while their mother argues with them. The aunt suggests sending Leticia instead, but her husband yells that he can't do that and tries to burn the papers, leading to a frantic struggle. Toss. Just as Leticia enters to announce breakfast, a letter is suddenly thrown out of the room. Drop the tossed letter lands directly at her feet. Leticia picks up the letter as the family frantically shouts for her to burn it immediately. She calmly explains that burning the pledge is useless, as its harmful power would simply be unleashed upon them instead. She reads the letter, a blood pledge from Alistair Gray to the Lord of Halstead, promising a daughter from the Grey House to repay a debt. As his wife tells him to give up, Leticia looks at the defeated Alistair Gray and quietly pleads with him. Alistair Gray states grimly that a promise made with blood requires proof that the blood is the same. He turns his gaze to Leticia, asking if she also has his blood. Leticia realizes, with horror, that her uncle intends to send her to Halstead, allowing him to give up the inheritance. Her aunt and cousins cruelly tell her to go, sneering that a witch like her will get along perfectly with the monster. They accuse her of always acting weird and speaking strange words in her sleep, causing Leticia to panic that she might have been speaking Korean. Clang! A food tray is violently knocked to the floor in the heat of the argument. Leticia demands proof she's a witch, but they viciously retort that all redheads are witches. Her aunt leans in, menacingly reminding Leticia that she knows what happens to witches. Terrified and shaking, Leticia asks her aunt if she's joking. Panic sets in as she realizes an examination by the temple would undoubtedly expose her memories of a past life. She makes a desperate appeal to their family ties, asking if they would truly let their own niece be burned at the stake. Her aunt looks down on her with cold eyes, claiming she is only worried for her safety. The aunt reveals her twisted plan. They will adopt Leticia, only to send her to marry into the Halstead family, the very place her parents died. Clack. On a lonely wagon, Leticia journeys through a desolate canyon toward the land of demons, trying to remain optimistic. She pumps herself up, reasoning that the monster lord is still a person and not a demon. Her brief resolve fades into gloom as she concedes this fate is only slightly better than being burned at the stake. Bang! A sudden jolt throws her forward as the horses neigh in panic, and the drivers yell in alarm. The driver shouts that he has no explanation. The chaos began the very moment they crossed into Northern Territory. In the distance, a massive sand tornado forms, and the travelers realize with dread that something is approaching. As the dust swirls, they spot a silhouette emerging from the chaos and identify it as a carriage. Whoosh! Leticia shields her eyes, peering into the swirling dust at the approaching figure. Clack! Clack! A creature's legs become visible as it steps out from the dust cloud. Rumble. The driver screams in terror that it's not a carriage but a horde of imps and that they must run. Nay! The horses rear in panic as Leticia is jostled in the back of the wagon. Dash! The wagon speeds away, leaving a startled Leticia to look back in alarm. Trip. As she chases the fleeing wagon and begs them to wait, she stumbles and falls. Surrounded by glowing red eyes, she hears the imps whisper about the fresh human female child they found. A brief, idyllic vision shows Leticia resting gently against a mysterious dark-haired man amid a flurry of flowers. The horde of imps spots her trying to flee, shouting that they've found a human child. Leticia's face is a mask of pure terror as she realizes the gravity of her situation. She bolts as the imps shout that their prey is escaping. She desperately sprints along the rocky canyon wall, seeking an escape route. Her escape is cut short as she reaches a dead end against a sheer cliff face. A menacing imp raises its weapon, declaring its intent to eat the human. The imp pauses mid-threat, its expression suddenly turning to confusion. The entire horde looks past Leticia, collectively questioning what they are seeing. Hiding behind a rock, Leticia overhears the imps searching for her. Drawn by her scent, she despairs, lamenting that she's about to die again, and that marrying the monster lord would have been better. Peeking out from her hiding spot, a sudden sound catches her attention. Clang! As the imps rummage through the abandoned carriage, Leticia recognizes something unbelievable. Done, she stares in shock at a familiar object from her past life, a can of butane gas. She panics, wondering how her ramen mate from her orphanage days in Korea could possibly be here. A thought strikes her, and she pauses to reconsider her situation. She notices the imp steed, whose mane is made of pure flame. Realizing she has a chance to escape, Leticia formulates a desperate plan involving the gas and the fiery beast. Tap, tap, tap. She sneaks toward the carriage, and with a quick snap, activates a gas canister. An imp spots her and alerts the others that the human child is there. Holding the makeshift bomb, Leticia stands firm with a look of grim determination. The imps watch her, completely bewildered by what she's doing. Drawing on her past life as a baseball fan, she winds up for a pitch, praying for success. Fling. She hurls the gas canister with all her might toward the flame-maned steed. Thunk. The can bounces directly off the creature's head as Leticia watches in horror. Whoosh. The canister flies through the air after the impact. Grab. To her utter dismay, the fiery steed catches the canister perfectly in its mouth. The imps cheer, believing they've caught her projectile and that she has failed. An imp congratulates the beast as gas begins to seep out of the canister it's holding. Boom! A massive explosion erupts against the canyon wall, just missing Leticia. The canyon is engulfed in a blinding flash of fire and shrapnel. Leticia shields herself from the aftershock, her eyes wide with shock. The imps scream in agony, believing the human child has attacked them with powerful magic. A dying imp vows to tell the great demon about her before succumbing to its wounds. Leticia dismisses the threat, only to look up and see a powerful, horned figure watching from a cliff above. Whoosh! The imposing silhouette stands tall as a powerful wind swirls around him. The two surviving imps corner Leticia, calling her a bad human for killing their comrades. As Leticia turns in fear, the massive horned figure on the cliff begins to move. Whoosh! The figure swings a massive weapon, unleashing a devastating attack downwards. A wave of red energy surrounds Leticia, shielding her from the incoming blow. Stab! The attack narrowly misses her, instead piercing through an imp lunging at her from behind. Flop! The slain imp collapses at her feet. As a group of warriors fights the remaining imps, one complains they're endless, while Leticia wonders if they are human and realizes her explosion must have wiped out half the horde, questioning if a magician is nearby. A man with an eye patch reacts with confusion, while a gray-haired man behind him looks on in shock. A young girl with red hair looks up with wide, lost eyes, seemingly stranded. As a figure steps into view, he corrects Casaro, stating the girl didn't lose her way, and asks Alexa what she found. Alexa reports finding a destroyed carriage and an ornate sigil, but no signs of its passengers. The group looks at the girl in astonishment, asking if she is from the Gray family. She nervously confirms her identity for now, a dark, horned silhouette looming in her memory. Clank, a bloodied sword appears beside her as a voice notes the Gray family fulfilled their promise. The girl looks up in awe as the title of the Monster Lord is revealed. She stands before the imposing, armored Monster Lord, whose eyes glow ominously in the night. A closer look reveals his ornate necklace, which bears the symbol of a two-winged dragon. His glowing purple eye narrows as she realizes the meaning behind the symbol. The scene shifts to an establishing shot of the grand and imposing Halstead castle. Inside the bustling castle, the girl reflects on her arrival with the Monster Lord and the so-called 3 demon grannies. 2 castle attendants notice her dazed expression, assuming she's still in shock from an imp attack. Tap. A hand gently touches her shoulder, startling her from her thoughts. KYA, a sudden scream echoes through the courtyard, catching the staff off guard. The girl cowers in fear as Kasaro approaches her, his presence clearly intimidating her. One of the women scolds Kasaro for frightening her, but he defensively claims he only wanted to offer her cookies. The woman questions his timing, while the terrified girl trembles, thinking she's a messy sight. Lexa formally introduces herself as the castle's butler, prompting the girl's internal disbelief. Kasaro introduces himself as the cook, boasting about his food as the girl imagines he plans to cook her. The intimidating trio strikes poses, but their efforts only make the girl feel more distant and scared. A woman in a maid's uniform gently places a reassuring hand on the girl's shoulder. As she's led down a hall, the girl silently wonders about her fate, fearing she might be eaten. Seeing a padlocked door, her imagination runs wild with fears of sacrifice and slavery. She recalls a dark rumor about the demon grannies keeping a room filled with the belongings of dead maidens. She stops and nervously asks the maid about the purpose of the locked room. The maid's cryptic reply that she'll find out soon only confirms the girl's worst fears. Alone in bed, she wonders if she's fated to be a cannibal sacrifice, hoping for reincarnation. Tossing in bed, she's plagued by anxieties of what tomorrow holds and fears a midnight visit from the Monster Lord. She sits up in her bed, her gaze fixed on the door to her lavishly decorated room. With trepidation, she reaches for the doorknob, determined to check her confinement. Clack. To her surprise, she discovers that the door is unlocked. Cautiously, she peeks her head out into the dark hallway. Stepping out, she finds herself in a vast, moonlit corridor, seemingly deserted. She nervously swallows, her eyes darting around the imposing and silent castle interior. Looking out over a grand hall, she realizes the sheer size of the castle and questions her chances of escape. As she gazes out at the night sky, she contemplates what she would even do after escaping. Eek. She quickly hides as she overhears two men discussing the items they recently acquired. As the men walk away, one confirms the items have been stored and that she already knew where. Believing she went unnoticed, she clutches her chest and breathes a quiet sigh of relief. Her relief is short-lived as the Monster Lord suddenly appears behind her, questioning her presence. Ah. She lets out a startled gasp, her eyes wide with fear as she turns to face him. She stammers that she was lost, but he calmly cuts her off, asking where she was going. Frozen with terror, she struggles to find an answer to his piercing question. The Monster Lord turns and walks away, simply commanding her to follow him. She hesitates, filled with uncertainty about where he is leading her and if she should obey. He leads her into a vast room lined with bookshelves, which she recognizes as a library. The Monster Lord approaches a section of the library wall, placing his hand upon a bookshelf. DRRRK. A heavy door groans open in the darkness, revealing the arrival of a mysterious figure. Leticia finds herself face to face with the imposing, horned man who saved her. The horned man points toward an exit, telling her she can take a horse from the stables and leave. Stunned by his unexpected offer of freedom, Leticia questions if she heard him correctly. He gives her detailed instructions, assuring her that a horseman will guide her safely back to the Southern Territory. He asks why she's hesitating after trying to escape, urging her to leave so he can get back to reading his book. She stares in confusion as he holds up the large, ornate book he was so eager to finish. He asks again why she isn't leaving, but she stands frozen, unable to form a reply. He tells her to run if she wants to, but she fidgets, realizing with despair that she has nowhere else to go. Deciding it's better to be his bride than to die, her resolve is shattered when he flatly rejects her proposal. She frantically demands to know why he refuses, concluding he must be saving her to eat later because she's tasty, leaving him utterly bewildered. Weep, weep. Her terror escalates as she begs him not to kill or burn her, while he desperately tries to calm her down. Wail. Her panic crescendos into a full-blown wail as she screams her deepest fear, being burned alive. Fired up, he finally loses his patience and shouts that the reason he can't accept is because he's underage too. His shocking revelation leaves Leticia blushing and completely speechless. Crackle. Now sitting calmly before a fireplace, he reassures her that his house doesn't practice cannibalism or make sacrifices. Cradling a warm mug, she lets out a sigh of genuine relief. She takes a moment to admire the cute rabbit design on the mug, a small comfort in a strange place. He explains that since they are both underage, they will only have an engagement ceremony for now, revealing that he is 15. Twinkle. He sagely points out that 3 years is a very long time, prompting her to dryly compliment his arithmetic skills in her thoughts. Leticia brings up the rumor about a locked room containing the items of sacrificed girls. which seems to confuse him. She clarifies that she means the room with the padlock, and a look of understanding dawns on his face. Click. He unlocks the door, and she gasps in awe at the sight within. Sparkle. The room is not a gruesome vault, but a breathtakingly beautiful and luxurious bedroom. He informs her that this magnificent room is hers, leaving her completely stunned. As she takes it all in, he explains that they had to prepare the room in a rush upon her sudden arrival. He humbly worries the accommodations aren't good enough for a noble, but she loudly insists that she absolutely loves it, surprising him. She immediately flushes, embarrassed by her own enthusiastic outburst. He mentions Vastian, Alexa, and Casaro, reassuring her that though they are rough, they are kind people she need not fear. He adds, however, that most of the other rumors about him are true, sparking her concern once more. In the dim candlelight, he solemnly confirms that he really is as hideous and disgusting as the rumors say. He tells her this beautiful room, the Grand Castle, and he himself are all unfitting for someone like her. Leticia lowers her gaze, silently processing his painfully self-deprecating words. She finally confesses that she's not the Count's daughter, but a foster child sent in her cousin's stead, shocking him. Outraged on her behalf, he asks if she was forced to come, and she explains that her only alternative was being burned at the stake. She nervously asks if he will send her back, now that he knows the truth, and he admits that was his original plan. He clarifies his plan was to fulfill the pact with a temporary engagement before promptly sending the real daughter home. He declares that he has changed his mind, stating that her aunt and uncle have no right to raise her. Turning to give her the choice, he asks if she truly wants to go back to them. Shake. She firmly shakes her head no, and he tells her to follow him. Slam. He sits at a desk and begins to write, promising her that she can stay in the castle as long as she wants. Poor press. He seals a formal document with wax, guaranteeing his protection so that no one can ever harm her. He presents the sealed letter to Leticia, who looks up at him with quiet gratitude. Holding the letter of protection, she listens as he offers to guide her back to her room to prevent her from getting lost. As she's tucked into bed, he gently asks whether she would prefer the lamp on or off. Grip. Clutching her blanket, she nervously asks him to leave it on, and he quietly agrees before preparing to leave. Just as he reaches the door, she calls out his name, Erden, causing him to halt. Peeking out from under her covers, she shyly asks if she's allowed to call him by his name. Pausing in the doorway, Erden gives a simple, quiet confirmation. Yeah. Lying in bed, Leticia worries that calling him by name might make him feel bad and offers an apology. Erden reassures her that it's just been a long time since anyone but his parents used his name, as Leticia smiles and bids him goodnight. Creak. Erden quietly wishes her goodnight as he turns to leave the room. The door closes, leaving Leticia safely tucked in her bed in the now quiet room. Flutter. Clutching the letter of protection, she thinks to herself that he doesn't seem like a bad guy. Her thoughts continue as she wonders what he really looks like underneath his mask. Doze. With a feeling of security, she finally drifts off to sleep, holding the letter close. In another part of the castle, Erden stands before a basin of glowing blue water. He reaches down and dips his hands into the shimmering liquid. Splash. He brings the water up to his masked face. Drip. He clutches his face as water streams down, seemingly in anguish. A new day dawns, showing the grand castle bathed in bright sunlight. Leticia stands in a beautiful colonnaded garden, admiring a large apple tree. Stretch. She stretches her arms wide, exclaiming how well she slept. Looking up at the sky, she realizes with relief that she didn't have any nightmares. She approaches the tree, amazed by the sheer size of the apples hanging from its branches. Hop! She makes a small jump, trying to reach the lowest hanging fruit. Hop! She jumps again, but the apple remains just out of her grasp. Out of breath, she wonders when her body will finally grow as someone steps up behind her. Slice! Plop! In a swift motion, a hand cuts an apple from the branch and catches it. Startled, Leticia whips her head around to see who is there. She finds Erden standing there, holding the freshly picked apple. Peel. He begins expertly peeling the apple skin with a knife as she stammers a greeting. Push. He offers her the freshly prepared fruit. She sees that he has skillfully carved the apple slices to look like bunny ears. He urges her to take the apple she wanted. After she takes it, he tells her not to eat too much because Kazaro's excellent cooking will be ready for breakfast soon. Bite. She takes a bite and is overjoyed by how delicious the apple is. She turns to look for Erden, but he has already vanished. Staring at the empty space, she remarks on how fast he is. Munch. Taking another bite, she reaffirms her thought that he is definitely a good person, sparkle. A magnificent and bountiful breakfast is laid out on the dining table. Leticia stares in awe at the feast as Kizaru smirks proudly behind her chair. She asks if he made everything himself, and a head maid standing nearby confirms he did. Leticia's praise of a pirate who cooks flusters Kizaru, while two younger maids giggle at his reaction. Leticia asks the head maid if she can go see the Lord after she finishes eating. She explains she wants to thank him, but the head maid questions why she feels the need to ask for permission. The head maid smiles warmly, reminding Leticia that she will soon be the mistress of the house. However, she then informs a disappointed Leticia that Erden left early that morning. When Leticia asks where he went, the head maid explains it's his duty as a Halstead to dispose of nearby monsters. Seeing Leticia's worried expression, the head maid comforts her, assuring her that the Lord is very strong. With a concerned look, Leticia asks if he'll definitely come back. The head maid confidently reassures her that it's a small problem for him and that he'll be back by tomorrow. Startled, the head maid listens as Leticia suddenly declares her desire to help. Leticia announces that even though she can't fight monsters, she wants to fulfill her own responsibilities. A woman with a monocle explains to another staff member that the new lady will be the Callahan. Leticia asks what a Callahan is, and the woman explains it's an old northern term. The woman with the monocle clarifies that it means a true lord, not just a figurehead. Sitting at the table, Leticia asks what duties the Callahan has. The woman explains that the lord and the lady protect the castle together. When one is away, the other protects what's inside. Leticia listens with a somber expression, absorbing the weight of her new responsibilities. The woman with the monocle suggests Leticia can help by making a prayer tie, prompting Leticia to ask what that is. She explains it's an old custom where a tie fastened to a sword is believed to ensure a warrior's safe return from battle. As an image of a sword with a glowing tie appears, the woman explains that northerners fear not death, but being lost and unable to find their way home. She adds that receiving such a tie before battle provides a great sense of relief. Leticia's eyes sparkle with determination as the woman with the monocle notes that the Lord will be happy to hear of her resolve. The woman tells Leticia the maids can teach her after she finishes her breakfast, reminding her that a growing kid must eat well. Leticia nervously peeks into a room where several maids are working, catching one by surprise. A pink-haired maid warmly asks Leticia what brings her to their workshop. Leticia shyly asks if she could also help make the prayer ties. One of the maids eagerly agrees, promising that they will teach her everything she needs to know. As she joins the maids at the table, a thought crosses her mind. It's strange. The pink-haired maid shows Leticia a delicate golden charm to attach to the tie. Leticia giggles as another maid playfully puts on a fake mustache, but inwardly she admits to herself that she's scared. While accepting a cup of tea, she privately wonders if this newfound happiness can truly last. Dong, suddenly the sharp ring of an alarm bell shatters the peaceful moment as someone shouts that monsters are ambushing the castle. Bastian, Alexa, and the woman with the monocle are shown reacting in alarm to the sudden crisis. Dong! The maids cry out in confusion as the alarm continues to blare, and Leticia looks on in shock. Men frantically ring the massive bell as a commander orders everyone into battle formation. Clank. Kizaru draws her sword, cursing the terrible timing of the attack while the Lord is away. The woman with the monocle grabs Leticia's shoulders, insisting that she must hurry and evacuate. As she runs off, she calls for Kizaru and Bastian to report on the situation. Bastian informs her that the monster is a giant ant, likely the same one they fought 3 months prior. Screech! A massive ant appears, as Bastian theorizes it must have used an artifact to escape the sandstorm that supposedly wiped them out. A messenger reports the ants are piling dirt to breach the walls, and that while word has been sent to the Lord, his location is unknown. Kizaru realizes the monsters intentionally waited for Erden to leave, and orders everyone to gather their strength for the defense. Leticia declares she will help too, but Bastian firmly tells her she needs to evacuate. She argues back, insisting she can at least help with moving supplies if they need everyone gathered. Bastian looks down at her, his expression unreadable as he considers her plea. Nod, he finally relents, telling her he will leave it to her. Men rush to prepare, being ordered to grab useful supplies, categorize them, and prioritize long-range weapons. While carrying a box, Leticia looks inside and questions what she sees. She's shocked to find the box is filled with portable gas canisters, exclaiming, "Again?" Holding one of the strange cans, she wonders aloud what these impossible items are doing here. Outside, the giant ants are shown piling mounds of dirt against the castle walls, while also digging tunnels underneath. The defenders argue over strategy, torn between destroying the dirt mounds and stopping the tunneling. Kisaro, Vastian, and the woman with the monocle are at an impasse, with Kisaro muttering, "Bloody hell." The woman with the monocle states the grim reality. They don't have enough people to defend against both threats at once. Leticia stares at the gas canister, realizing she could use it like she did before. Her gaze darkens as she considers the unknown consequences of her actions. She reasons that if she uses her power, she will be branded a witch and burned, deciding it is better to stay quiet. But as she looks toward the castle gates, she questions what will happen to all the people defending it if she does nothing. Her eyes fall on the determined, worried faces of Kisaro, Vastian, and the others. She then sees the frightened maids, who have done nothing but show her kindness. A memory of Erden in his masked form flashes in her mind as he holds a glistening apple. She remembers him offering her the apple, skillfully carved into the shape of bunny ears. Recalling her duty as the Callahan to protect the castle in the Lord's absence, her resolve hardens. Wait, just a second. Leticia shouts, her voice cutting through the chaos and stopping everyone in their tracks. Clutching the canister, she stands resolute in the archway, ready to take her stand as the lady of the castle. The woman with the monocle urges Leticia to evacuate to the basement, assuring her the maids will provide protection. Leticia interjects, insisting she can help, and asking if they remember the explosion from the last monster ambush. Confused, the woman with the monocle, Vastian, and Kisaro try to recall the event she's referencing. Leticia admits she caused the explosion, shocking everyone, as Kisaro asks if she is a wizard. "No," she exclaims, presenting the gas canister and explaining that it creates a powerful explosion when combined with fire. The woman with the monocle eyes the canister suspiciously, demanding to know how Leticia has this knowledge. Leticia dismisses the question, insisting that how she knows is not important at the moment. She quickly outlines her plan to cause an explosion in the center of the ants to confuse them. With a determined gaze, she explains the blast will successfully bury the monsters in their own tunnels. She adds that the shockwave will also cause the large pile of dirt against the wall to collapse. The woman with the monocle seems convinced, as Leticia orders her to have the guards search for more canisters. After agreeing, Leticia anxiously wonders about their lack of archers, assuming they are away with the Lord. A reassuring voice tells her not to worry, causing Leticia to look up in surprise. In the archway, the maids stand assembled, led by the one with pink hair, ready for a fight. Sweep, one maid lifts her dress, revealing practical trousers and boots for combat underneath. Click, another maid skillfully prepares her bow, proving their combat readiness. Leticia's eyes sparkle with admiration, as she realizes the maids are all trained warriors, thinking it's incredibly cool. The woman with the monocle orders Romina and the longbow users to follow Leticia, while Kisaro prepares gunpowder arrows for the others. Click, two maids draw their bows, ready to give the monsters a taste of fire. Romina turns to Leticia with a confident smile, asking if they should get started. On the castle battlements, Leticia stands beside Romina, the wind whipping past them as they prepare. Whoosh! They quickly enter a stone watchtower on the castle wall. From their new vantage point, they survey the land and the swarm of monsters below. Leticia points out the target, directing the archers to aim for the area where the ants are tunneling. As a canister is tied to an arrow, the woman with the monocle shouts for everyone to prepare for her signal. On the walls, two maids take aim with flaming arrows, their bows drawn tight. Romina takes a slow, steadying breath, her focus entirely on the shot. Gulp. Leticia watches nervously as her dangerous plan is put into action. Fling. Romina releases her specially prepared arrow, sending it flying toward the enemy. Swoosh. On command, the rest of the archers let loose a powerful volley of arrows. A storm of arrows, led by the explosive projectiles, rains down from the sky onto the monster horde. Swoosh. The arrows land perfectly amidst the swarming giant ants on the ground. Boom. A massive explosion erupts, sending dirt and fire flying into the air. It hit. Leticia exclaims with joy and relief as she and Romina watch the successful strike. The woman with the monocle and a nearby maid stare in stunned silence at the plan's effectiveness. Nearby, Vastian and Kisaro are also left speechless, their mouths agape in shock. The ground collapses, burying and burning the ants as they screech in terror. Thwing! The archers are ordered to release another volley of fire arrows into the chaos. Boom! Amidst the fiery aftermath, Leticia spots the ant queen escaping and warns Romina they must stop her. Holding another gas canister, Leticia declares that the queen is the final target. The woman with the monocle rallies the archers, ordering them to focus all their fire on the queen, Romina knocks another explosive arrow, taking careful aim at the fleeing queen. Twang! Shouting, attack! Romina fires the lead arrow, followed by a swift volley from the others. Swoosh! The canister arrow soars through the air, leading a swarm of projectiles, straight for the queen. The queen ant shrieks as it senses the incoming volley just before it makes impact. Key! The canister explodes directly on the queen, engulfing her in a devastating fireball. Drop! As the queen perishes, a single glowing blue orb falls from her remains. The woman with the monocle and her maids look on in absolute disbelief at their hard-won victory. Vashtian and Kizaru survey the scene in awe as Vashtian quietly confirms, "We did it." On the tower, Leticia and Romina stand together under the clear blue sky, the battle finally over. A triumphant cheer of, "We did it," erupts from the castle as everyone celebrates their victory. Romina joyfully embraces Leticia, squealing with delight over their shared success. Elsewhere, two maids clasp hands and celebrate the hard-won victory with cheerful laughter. On the battlements, Kizaru and Vashtian share a moment of relieved celebration. Wahaha Kizaru playfully pulls Romina into a headlock as they both share a hearty laugh. Watching everyone's happy faces from an archway, Leticia feels a wave of pure relief. Alexa looks on grimly, declaring that this event makes things very clear. Leticia lands lightly on her feet after being set down from the celebration. Vashon hoists Leticia onto his shoulders as the crowd roars, proclaiming that their young lady saved them all. Alexa pledges the Halstead household's eternal gratitude, vowing to repay Leticia with their lives. Tears well up in Leticia's eyes, overwhelmed by their profound gratitude and loyalty. Clip-clop. A horse's hoof steps onto the battlefield just outside the castle gates, scattering ant remains. Erden arrives on horseback, staring in disbelief at the aftermath and asking what happened. Slam! Erden storms into the castle, frantically calling out for Vashtian, Alexa, and Kizaru. "My lord?" Vashtian, Alexa, and Kizaru greet him, with a smiling Leticia standing among them. Erden demands to know what happened to the monsters, and Vashtian reports their complete annihilation with 0 casualties. Stunned, Erden asks how it was possible, and Alexa gives all the credit to Leticia, whom she calls Lady Grey. Leticia stands proudly between her new protectors, offering a small, confident smile. Erden silently marvels at the impossible feat, admitting to himself that even he couldn't have won so flawlessly. Breaking the tension, Leticia brightly calls out his name, Erden. Flinch. Erden visibly recoils at the sound of his own name from her. Staring down at the tiny child before him, Erden is struck by a profound question. What is she? Undeterred, Leticia smiles and calls his name again with innocent cheer. Step. She takes a confident step forward, closing the distance between them. He subtly turns his head away, seemingly unsettled by her approach. Halt. He stops in his tracks, his posture tense. Seeing his reaction, Leticia halts, her cheerful expression fading into quiet observation. Through his mask, Erden's thoughts begin to drift toward a dark realization about perception. He concludes that anyone can become a monster to another, a sentiment that seems to reach Leticia. Looking up at her, he formally declares his family's eternal debt for her saving so many lives. As she stammers in surprise, he sincerely thanks her for protecting his castle. She clarifies that she did it because the people of the castle are precious to him. With earnest emotion, she adds that she simply didn't want to see anyone get hurt. Her heartfelt words leave Erden speechless, simply staring at her through his mask. Later, Kizaru peels potatoes in the kitchen, while Erden sits nearby, lost in thought. Erden finally voices his suspicion, quietly asking Kizaru if Leticia could be a witch. Kizaru continues her task, calmly asking what exactly a witch is supposed to do. He explains the common folklore: witches eat people and use sorcery. Kizaru logically points out that a powerful, evil witch wouldn't have arrived at their gates terrified, and Erden admits she's right. Still, Kizaru confesses she remains intensely curious about the source of Leticia's unusual knowledge. Holding a candlestick, Erden admits he shares the same curiosity. Kizaru declares that even if Leticia is a witch, she's proven herself to be a good one. Suddenly, Kizaru's expression grows serious as she examines an ornate key, admitting something is bothering her. Kizaru dismisses her own troubling thought as impossible, imagining an absurd scenario. As night falls, Kizaru reminds her lord to rest before his engagement ceremony the next day. Erden stands alone, quietly repeating the words engagement ceremony to himself. As he leaves the room, Kizaru watches with a heavy heart, knowing that many things are about to change. As a veil is placed on her head, Leticia learns that today is only a small engagement party, not a full wedding. Overlooking a grand hall, bustling with guests and laden with food, Leticia realizes this is anything but small. A server presents a massive, sparkling wedding cake as Leticia looks on in awe. Growl. Her stomach rumbles audibly as she admits to herself that she's hungry. Peek. She cautiously peeks out from behind a table laden with desserts and roasted fowl. Shocked Casaro appears, explaining that the northern party food isn't seasoned yet and won't taste good. Leticia wonders why, since Casaro's food has been delicious, and Casaro hands her an apple, cryptically telling her she'll know soon and to get ready for the Lord's arrival. Crunch. Taking a bite of the apple, Leticia wonders if Erden will wear his mask or not. Polished boots stride down the grand hall, heading directly towards awaiting Leticia. Erden arrives, dressed in ornate formal wear and wearing his intimidating horned mask. He extends a black-gloved hand towards Leticia, who looks up at him. He reassures her that the ceremony will be done in no time and that she just has to bear it for a little. Leticia looks at his outstretched hand, thinking to herself how kind he is. She gently places her hand in his, accepting his offer. Inefficient begins the ceremony, formally naming Erden, son of Elias and Leonora. Standing before the altar, Erden promises to accept Leticia as the future lady of the house, fulfilling a decade-old agreement. A group of robed observers gasps in shock at the official declaration. As small white particles begin to fall, Leticia looks up in confusion, wondering if it's snow. Erden explains it's the purest type of salt, with a good texture that isn't too salty. From a balcony above, guests cheerfully sprinkle salt crystals down as a blessing, a northern custom for celebrations. Leticia finally understands why the festive foods are left unseasoned, meant to be flavored by the blessing. She marvels at the beautiful, magical tradition, realizing the North has its own unique beauty. Leticia Gray Halstead. She and Erden stand together, surrounded by the falling salt and confetti. Leticia looks on with a determined expression, her new life beginning. Whoosh! Erden turns, his cape sweeping dramatically as he officially welcomes her to the land in the north. He stands before a grand doorway, a striking and powerful figure. Looking at her, he declares that from now on, she is one of them. Leticia listens intently as he formally welcomes her to her new home. Whoosh! He turns once more, leading her toward the dark, ominous archway. The ceremony hall door closes, revealing an eerie darkness beyond. Leticia gets goosebumps, nervously wondering if she's being led to an underground dungeon. Erden gestures forward, explaining that this is the final part of the engagement ceremony. He offers his hand to lead her into the darkness, but she hesitates. Stealing her resolve, she decides that although she's scared, she must proceed. As they descend a torchlit staircase, Leticia's fears mount, wondering if she is a living sacrifice. A horrifying thought dawns on her. They're not celebrating her arrival, they're going to feast on her. Kiak. A hand brandishes a sharp dagger, and Leticia screams in terror. Erden, now wearing a simpler mask, holds the dagger and apologizes for scaring her, but Leticia is convinced she's about to die. In a panic, she realizes with horror that she was brought here to be a living sacrifice all along. Ah! She erupts in a tantrum, accusing him of planning to cook her and calling the marriage pointless, while he desperately tries to calm her down. She throws the apple core and hits him squarely in the mask, shouting for him to stay away as he stammers about a pledge. She stands ready to fight, clenching her fist as he looks on, confused. Intimidated, Erden holds up a scroll, nervously explaining they must burn the pledge paper at an altar to complete the ceremony. He explains the pledge is bound by blood and needs blood to be nullified before calmly slitting his finger with the knife. Ouch. Wipe. He smears his blood on the ancient scroll, clarifying that burning the pledge paper signifies their promises have been kept. Leticia realizes her misunderstanding with an embarrassed expression, feeling foolish. A new, terrifying thought strikes her as she wonders what the next part of the ritual entails. Thump thump. Her heart pounds as she imagines him having scales or fuzzy goat hooves like the monsters in books. Her wild train of thought is interrupted as she looks up and asks, "Huh?" Her eyes widen as she sees his perfectly normal, even beautiful human hand, a stark contrast to the bloody image of him cutting it that flashes in her mind. Kia! She shrieks at the memory. Flustered, Leticia clutches her chest, wondering why her heart hurts and lamenting his roughness with such a pretty hand, while Erden asks what's wrong. Flare! The pledge paper ignites as it's tossed into the ceremonial flames. crackle, the ancient scroll burns away in the magical fire. Erden watches the flames, declaring that the promises between their families have now been fulfilled. He turns to her, adding that there is something else he wants her to see. Leticia looks up at him with curiosity, asking what it is. Erden presents a single, ornate golden key to her. He explains that deep below them lies their family's treasure room, Creek. As Erden opens the door, flanked by devil and angel statues, Leticia realizes it's both a treasure room and a charnel house. He leads her into the vast, torchlit chamber. Inside, Leticia looks upon the back of a mysterious hooded statue. She looks at two more statues, concluding they must be Erden's parents, who died because of the demons. Erden stops before the statues, simply stating, "This is it." They approach a massive chest bound in heavy chains as Leticia asks what it is. He reveals it's the Great Book of Secrets, a name Leticia finds amusingly childish. Erden explains it was written by a legendary sage who conquered demons many years ago. He confesses that he once tried to summon demons, but it nearly caused a disaster, shocking Leticia. Leticia has a moment of understanding, realizing he must have tried it after his parents passed away. A flashback shows the great sage conquering demons, as Leticia wonders why they still plague the north. The flashback ends with the sage vanishing, and Erden explains he mysteriously disappeared one day. Click. He unlocks the chains, revealing that the book contains the sage's methods written in a secret code. He opens the box to reveal the ancient tome, explaining that its damage and code have made it unreadable, but invaluable if deciphered. Erden formally asks her to examine the book, leaving Leticia pointing at herself in disbelief. Badump. Erden's heart seems to pound with anticipation as he declares his certainty that her mysterious knowledge can interpret it. Panicked, Leticia denies having any special knowledge, only recalling memories of making instant noodles in her past life. Bang! Placing the heavy book down, she nervously asks if it's really okay to handle a family treasure. Swing! He effortlessly lifts the heavy cage off the book, stating it's fine since his wife is now family, making her flinch. Ack! Grunt. Leticia grows nervous, thinking that at this rate, he'll start treating her like a great sage. Flip. Unwilling to disappoint him, she opens the ancient book, doubting it will be written in Korean. She looks up from the page with a small, "Surprised, huh?" Her eyes widen as she reads the title, which is unmistakably Korean, about the demons. Her shock is expressed in a single explosive thought. WHAAAAATT? Overwhelmed, she mentally screams, wondering why Korean text is in this book. Confused by her reaction, Erden asks what she read about the demons. Baffled, Leticia forces a laugh and confirms she read it, much to Erden's astonishment. Excited, Erden urges her to read the next page, while she internally panics, realizing she's in deep trouble as she begins to translate. His mask comically blushes as he leans in, and she notes how eagerly he's staring, even without seeing his face. She continues reading, revealing the sage defeated demons by using objects from another world. Erden questions what another world means, and where to find these objects. While Leticia realizes the sage wasn't reincarnated like her, he tilts his head innocently, asking if this other world is like hell. Sweating, Leticia concedes he isn't entirely wrong, as she struggles to find the right words to explain. She points to a diagram, explaining that strategy is the most important element, with the objects being only one part of the method. They look at the next section, but Erden observes that it's too damaged to read. As images of a modern city flash by, Leticia explains the book calls the sage's world contemporary capitalism and a real hell, baffling Erden. She gives a thumbs up, clarifying that the sage's world had beings even more vicious than demons, giving him the experience to win easily. Erden strokes his chin in thought, pondering the term contemporary capitalism, as Leticia nervously confirms it. She looks down at the rest of the book, dismayed to find the following pages are completely empty. Erden praises her incredible ability, speculating that she might be the great sage from the south. Leticia frantically denies it, insisting that she was just lucky. Erden concludes it's no wonder she defeated the monsters so easily, causing her to cry out, "Wait!" Flustered, Leticia shouts that he's wrong and demands he listen to her explanation. Erden courteously agrees, stating that he is all ears. His polite response leaves Leticia momentarily speechless. She gathers herself and firmly states that she is no great sage. Leticia confesses that the language she read was the one she spoke in her past life, shocking Erden. She looks at him directly and reveals that she retains memories of her past life. Erden processes her stunning revelation from behind his mask. Fearing his reaction, Leticia begins to protest, but he interrupts her. He reassures her by saying, "Good, and vowing to carry her secret to his grave. She timidly asks if he's not going to report her to the temple. Erden declares that as his wife, she is now one of them, and Halstead will protect her and her secrets. Touched by his acceptance, Leticia quietly thanks him. Erden offers to share his own secret to make things fair, though Leticia insists he doesn't have to. He presents a glowing purple orb, explaining that it's an artifact. Admiring its beauty, Leticia learns it's Tiroa's tear from the Ant Queen, possessing a skill called Oblivion. Erden explains artifacts are magic stones that act as the heart of every castle. Understanding that families fight over them, she asks if Halstead has one. Erden confirms that they do, then stuns her by declaring that he is the artifact. As Leticia stares in disbelief, he confirms that this is his secret. He reveals that his own heart is the artifact of the castle. Leticia questions the revelation, stunned that a 15-year-old carries such an immense burden. A quick flashback recalls his offer to make things fair by sharing a secret. Leticia realizes the castle weakens when he's gone, and he explains his ancestors fused with the artifact to fight demons. He recounts how after his parents' deaths, he vowed to defeat the demons, but could barely protect the castle alone. With newfound hope, he believes her ability makes his goal possible as she understands the weight of his request. Grip, he clenches his fist, and she realizes his dream to eradicate demons is fueled by revenge for his parents. Sparkle Erden fervently promises to ensure she lives a comfortable, carefree life. Leticia is dumbfounded by his sudden, passionate declaration. He pledges to divorce her when she's an adult, so she won't be tied to a monster, leaving her comically devastated. Exasperated, she sarcastically thinks he's planned her entire future, even down to finding her a realtor. Her expression turns serious, as she asks Erden why he wants to make a better world. He explains his desire to protect the kind, weak, and special people of the world. To do so, he declares he must get rid of the demons and create a safe world for everyone. He abruptly announces his departure to collect the parts of the book, and she anxiously asks how long he will be gone. He admits he doesn't know how long it will take, and she worries it will be a long time before they meet again. Memory from her past life flashes, showing her collapsing and being left alone in a fiery room. She recalls the feeling of being disappointed and building a wall around her heart while waiting for someone who never came. A brief, warm memory of a hand holding apple slices cut like rabbit ears appears. Another fleeting memory shows a large, reassuring hand holding hers. Back in the present, Erden stands before her, ready to leave on his journey. Leticia looks up at him, her expression filled with a new, firm resolve. Erden watches her with a steady gaze. She looks down at her hands, questioning why she would need to build walls anymore. Reach makes a decision and reaches for his hand. Erden is startled by her unexpected touch. She takes his hand firmly, telling him to make sure he retrieves the book. Looking him in the eye, she passionately promises to try her best to help him. She holds his hand tightly, sealing their newfound partnership. Erden looks down, seemingly moved by her unwavering support. Leticia gazes up at him with determination, ready for the path ahead. Clasp, her hand closes over his, sealing their new pact with a firm, supportive grip. They emerge from the chamber, stepping back into the castle's main hall together. They are immediately met by a lively celebration, with a guest remarking that they were downstairs for quite a while. A woman with an eye patch cheerfully waves them over, asking what took so long and inviting them to join the party. Leticia's eyes light up with excitement as she realizes they're finally going to eat, exclaiming how delicious the food looks. Grab! Just as they near the feast, a pair of hands seizes Erden from behind, halting them. Ack! A stern-looking nanny has both of them in an iron grip, declaring it's their bedtime. Leticia protests that they haven't eaten, while Erden meekly asks if he has to go too. The nanny gives a menacingly sweet smile, insisting that kids need to sleep well and can eat tomorrow. The nanny effortlessly drags a protesting Leticia and a dejected Erden away as the crowd waves and offers their congratulations. Later that night, Leticia sits alone on a large bed in a dark, quiet room. She looks down with a pensive expression, lost in the silence of her new surroundings. She recalls Erden's earnest declaration about wanting to make the world a better place. Back in the present, she clutches her chest, admitting that his selfless words made her heart ache. Her expression remains troubled as she reflects on the depth of his conviction. The memory of her hand clasping his flashes in her mind. She looks at her own hand, as if still feeling the ghost of his touch. Gasp! A sudden, shocking memory strikes her, causing her eyes to widen. She remembers seeing his bare hand for a moment and is stunned, thinking she's never seen such a beautiful hand in her life. Lying in bed, she frantically wonders why he would cover such perfect hands, realizing the shocking discovery of Korean text had completely distracted her from it. The next morning, the sun shines brightly upon Halstead Castle. At breakfast, Leticia cries with joy while eating, calling it the best meal of her reincarnated life, as two amused maids offer her seconds. Her meal is cut short as she looks up in alarm, asking if Erden is truly leaving for the Black Rocks today. A retainer confirms that Erden made the decision last night and will depart in the evening once preparations are complete. Standing in a doorway, Leticia overhears the nanny asking how long he'll be gone, to which Erden replies that even he doesn't know. One of the retainers expresses concern for the castle, reminding Erden they were only saved from the last attack thanks to Leticia. Tap. Erden presents Tirua's tear, stating they will use its power of concealment and oblivion to protect the castle in his absence. The three retainers realize this artifact's power is how the giant ants remained hidden, leading them to believe the species was extinct. The scholar looks at Erden with dawning realization, but before she can voice her fear, he simply confirms it with a yes. Erden calmly reveals his drastic plan. He will erase Halstead Castle's existence. He explains he will remove all traces of the castle, including everyone's and every monster's memory of it. A stunned Leticia whispers, "Gone?" as the retainers grimly accept that they cannot stop him now that he has such a powerful countermeasure. Erden reassures his grannies, promising he will find the book and ensure they can live comfortably and safely away from demons. His heartfelt vow moves the three women to tears. Their emotions turn comical as they reminisce about raising him from a boy who read rabbit books, making Erden blush while they worry about his provisions. Erden appears momentarily flustered by their emotional display. He turns to call for his wife, but sees her already running from the room. He stands silently for a moment, confused by her abrupt exit. The maids giggle, pointing out that Leticia seems to be sulking and asking what he'll do, which surprises him. The nanny gently explains they're just sad he's leaving so suddenly and promises she will take good care of Leticia. She tells him not to worry and to return safely, and Erden listens in thoughtful silence. Leticia runs through a sunlit corridor, thinking that with Erden leaving, a part of her heart feels empty. She continues running, correcting herself. It isn't empty, her heart aches. The reason becomes clear in her mind. Erden is incapable of being kind to himself. She visualizes him as a solitary, burdened figure, standing alone. Bang! She bursts through a set of doors with renewed purpose. Entering his room, she marches to the bed and pulls back the blanket. She picks up a familiar object from the bedding, her expression one of firm resolve. In the courtyard, Erden prepares to depart as the nanny tells him he can return whenever he gets tired, even if it's the next day. The retainers tell him his safety is what's most important, but he dismisses their concerns as Leticia watches him from a distance. The nanny notices Leticia standing nervously nearby just as Erden calls out to his wife. Toddle. Leticia approaches Erden as he and the woman with an eye patch prepare for his departure. Looking up at him, Leticia responds to his call and apologizes for his sudden need to leave. Erden asks her to please stay safe and take care of the castle with everyone while he is gone. He quickly backtracks, flustered, reminding her that she is free to leave the castle whenever she wishes. Stop. Leticia cuts him off, looking at him with determination as she promises to wait for his return. Erden stares down at her, taken aback by her firm, unexpected declaration. Nod. After a moment of silence, he accepts her vow with a solemn nod. She holds out a golden tassel, telling him she has something for him. As his caravan departs in the distance, Leticia watches from the castle walls, a single thought beginning. The people of Halstead wave enthusiastically from the battlements, bidding their lord farewell. Inside, the two remaining retainers stand before a large, ornate device glowing with purple energy. The scholar holds Tirua's tear, asking her companion if they should get started. Erden and his knights ride through the main gate, leaving the castle behind. Leticia stands alone at the open gate, her thoughts affirming that they don't just wait. She declares that they wait for the right time to come, her resolve hardening. She looks out from the gate, her eyes filled with a new and powerful determination. Turn, she suddenly spins around, a new plan forming. Step, she takes a purposeful step back towards the castle interior. Run, she races up the stone stairs towards the top of the wall where the others are gathered. Squeeze, she pushes her way through the crowd on the ramparts to get a better view. The scholar carefully places Tirua's tear into the glowing magical device. Twist, click, the artifact locks into place, activating the castle's defense. Whirl. A blinding wave of magical energy erupts from the device, engulfing the chamber. Now at the front of the crowd, Leticia thinks to herself that she wants to call his name once more. She looks out at his distant figure, worrying that he is already too far away to hear her. Her expression saddens as she looks down, hesitating for a moment. Filled with emotion, she shouts out a shortened version of his name, Erd. Turn! Her call carries across the distance, causing him to turn sharply in his saddle. He looks back, his attention captured as ethereal blue petals swirl around him. One of his knights looks back in shock, remarking that the castle has completely disappeared without a trace. Where Halstead once stood, there is only an empty field, its existence erased from the memory of all outsiders. His men express their fear, wondering if they too will forget Halstead and be unable to return. Erden listens to their concerns, his masked face unreadable against the bright sky. He confidently reassures his men, promising that he will remember for all of them. The golden tassel Leticia gave him is now tied securely to the hilt of his sword. Clack. 7 years later, a lone carriage makes its way through a snowy mountain pass. Rattle. The carriage kicks up dust as it approaches the gates of a stone fortress. Nay, a Minotaur guard abruptly stops the carriage, and the driver urgently calls for the horses to halt. Pissed, the eye-patch woman leans out of the window, angrily demanding the gates be opened for their visit to the night market. An unseen guard states that they must inspect the carriage, prompting her to complain about the freezing cold. The Minotaur guard politely explains that he is simply doing his job, and she remarks that he's quite thorough for a demon. She throws open the carriage door, telling him to hurry up, revealing a cloaked Leticia, now a young woman. Leticia sits quietly in her fur-lined hood, her expression hidden in the shadows. The Minotaur guard records their numbers, a rider and 2 passengers, and the eye-patch woman confirms it. The guard then asks which castle they are from, catching her completely off guard. Turn. Hearing the question, Leticia turns her head. She lowers her hood, revealing her older, determined face, and proudly answers, Halstead. The guard looks to a companion, confused, stating he's never seen the carriage before, and asking who the owner is. Another Minotaur guard steps forward, declaring that the land is owned by Duke Belial and demanding their business. Pissed, the eye-patch woman shouts again, asking why else they would be there except for the night market, and demanding they open the door. The eye-patch woman, complaining about the cold, opens the carriage door and tells the Minotaur guard to hurry up with his inspection. While writing on a scroll, the guard confirms there is 1 rider and 2 passengers before asking which castle they are from, catching the woman off guard. Turn. Inside the carriage, Leticia hears the question and turns her head slightly. Pass. The guards grant the carriage entry as the horses neigh and pull forward through the now open gates. After the carriage passes, one guard asks his companion where they said they were from, but he looks at his notes in confusion. The note-taking guard finds it strange that he can't find the information he just wrote down, and his companion teases him for being forgetful. The scene transitions to a beautiful, snowy town at night, illuminated by an aurora-filled sky. Leticia marvels at how pretty the demon-owned land is, admitting it's not the gloomy place she expected, when a voice calls out to her. The eye-patch woman catches up, playfully chiding Leticia for running off and insisting they explore together. Gasping for breath, she tells Leticia she was too bold for announcing their castle's name earlier, saying it nearly gave her a heart attack. Leticia smiles reassuringly, confident that the artifact's power of oblivion is working perfectly fine. Her expression turns serious, however, as she silently acknowledges that there isn't much time left for the artifact's power. Her companion urges her to hurry, reminding her the night market only happens once a year, and Leticia agrees to go. Whoa! Leticia stares in awe at the bustling market as her companion watches her with a calm expression. A view of the lively market reveals that 7 years have passed since Erden's departure. Leticia reflects sadly that in all that time, she hasn't heard a single word from Erden. Lost in thought, she feels as if time has stopped for her, passing by with agonizing slowness. She continues to worry, looking off into the distance and wondering how Erden is faring. Surrounded by dark shadows, her thoughts spiral as she questions if he's injured or even still alive. Heave. Gasp. The eye-patch woman, now carrying a heavy sack of bread, calls out to Leticia, snapping her out of her somber thoughts. Roar. The woman, whose name is revealed to be Casaro, tells Leticia to slow down because her body isn't well, but Leticia playfully dismisses her concern, vowing to buy everything. Leticia realizes they are worried because Terua's tear is losing power, just as a nearby stall owner advertises his wares for 1 daina. The eager vendor boasts that he has anything and everything imaginable, urging them to buy before it's gone. Leticia stops in her tracks, looking at an item on the stall with a puzzled expression. She recognizes a modern energy bar an old favorite of hers from her exam days in her past life. Holding the familiar snack, she wonders in shock how these things from her world keep appearing here. The vendor enforces a "you touch it, you buy it" policy, telling her the price is 1 daina. Resignedly thinking she should have known, Leticia pays the vendor a single coin for the bar. Crunch, she takes a satisfying bite of the chocolate energy bar. Chewing thoughtfully, she decides that it should be safe to eat. A narrator explains a concept that can be called either a door or storage. The scene focuses on ornate, magical patterns, continuing the theme of mystical spaces or inventories. While eating, Leticia muses that if she knew where to find such a storage, she'd look for ramen. Her thoughts are interrupted by an angry patron at a nearby tavern who is shouting about someone hiding information. The enraged, blue-skinned demon demands to know how a whole castle can just disappear and why nobody has heard of Halstead. Leticia's eyes widen in shock as she overhears the mention of Halstead Castle. Shush Kisaro quickly places a calming hand on Leticia's shoulder, quietly urging her to stay calm. The blue demon aggressively shakes a smaller patron, demanding to know if he's heard of Halstead Castle. Other patrons recall a 7-year-old rumor about a castle that took in a young bride for a great demon. The demon is convinced that Halstead is using powerful magic to erase its own existence from memory. Another demon asks the agitated man why he has such a grudge against the family, noting how he's grinding his teeth in anger. Slip. As the man says he at least remembers them, his hood falls back, revealing a craggy, determined face. He announces himself as Kirax, the strongest warrior of the Verosa stone golems, surprising a nearby patron. The patrons gossip, recalling that Kirax lost a fight to a feudal lord and went away to train. They erupt in laughter at his expense, causing a furious Kirax to tremble with rage. Bang! Kirax slams his mug on the table, yelling that the Lord of Halstead was the one who defeated him. He vows to lead his tribesmen, who are rumored to be near the Tomb of Spiders, to attack Halstead and show off their 7 years of training. A flashback shows a masked swordsman standing over the defeated Kirax, vowing to repay the pain of that day. Kirax furiously declares they will expose the monster lord's face and crush him with their own hands. Crack. He squeezes his hand, shattering his wooden mug with sheer force. Kirax, sitting at the tavern, recalls seeing a cloaked figure and a driver by a carriage. He remembers seeing Kisaro gesturing towards the cloaked Leticia by the carriage door. He focuses on Kisaro's face, a flicker of recognition in his memory. His eyes widen as he shouts his realization that he is positive. He knows who that granny is. He proudly announces himself as Kirax, the strongest warrior of the Verosa stone golems, as another patron questions his return. 2 patrons gossip, confirming the rumor that Kirax was defeated by a feudal lord and went away to train. Bang! Kirax furiously slams his mug, shouting that the Lord of Halstead defeated him and it infuriates him. His memory replays the moment Kisaro stood by the carriage door. He recalls her determined, silent expression. He is now certain, declaring that he is positive about the identity of the eye patch woman. Rattle. Later that night, Leticia's carriage travels through a dark, wooded area. Inside, a panicked Leticia questions why the artifact failed to work on Kirax and how he could possibly remember Halstead. Kisaro explains that Kirax's return after 7 years coincides with the artifact's power weakening. Leticia worries about the Verosa tribesmen's planned attack, knowing she has no word from Erden. Kisaro suggests they attack the tribesmen at the Tomb of Spiders first, a plan Leticia considers as she recalls it's a cliff maze. A view of the Tomb of Spiders reveals a treacherous, dark canyon, which narration confirms is difficult for large forces to navigate. Kisaro stresses their dangerous situation, and Leticia agrees that simply waiting would be suicide. Leticia concentrates, telling herself she must think of a plan. Squeeze. She clenches her fists in her lap, realizing that being scared will solve nothing. Her mind turns to the past 7 years spent reading every book in Erden's library, including his secret one. A flashback shows her studying demon culture, absorbing all the knowledge she could find. Leticia observes that the tribesmen likely don't know Erden is away, and Kisaro agrees. With a cunning smile, Leticia suggests they adopt Kisaro's earlier idea of a preemptive strike. A shocked Kisaro blurts out, "What?" asking if Leticia truly wants to attack first. Leticia calmly states that a book she read describes stone golems as both volatile and stupid. Kisaro's expression shifts to one of intrigued surprise. Back at Halstead Castle, the narration weighs the risk of Kirax's return against the fading power of Tira's tear. In a meeting room, a servant states that Kirax is merely waiting, and at this rate, they're just waiting for death. Casaro and an elder woman stand together as Casaro reports that the castle lacks the personnel and weapons to fight back. Leticia announces she has devised a plan and asks her attendants if they will hear her out. The elder woman leans forward, asking what the plan is. Crackle. The logs in the grand fireplace burn brightly. After hearing the plan, the elder woman looks impressed, remarking that it's a devilish idea. She asks how Leticia conceived of such a plan, and Leticia privately credits her upbringing in a capitalist society. Leticia gives orders to prepare every household with weapons and rations, warning them of the high stakes if the plan fails. The elder woman expresses her concern over facing 100 skilled stone golem warriors, but Leticia insists they cannot let them join Kirax. Leticia declares with unwavering resolve that protecting the castle is her duty, regardless of the danger. She is asked about the fate of everyone else, a question that gives her pause. Casaro, the elder woman, and another attendant nod, accepting the plan. Leticia stands, announcing she will begin the preparations. Her attendants watch as she walks toward a set of large, ornate doors. They look on with concern as one of them begins to speak. Creak, the heavy door swings open into a dark hallway. Close, the door shuts, leaving Leticia standing alone in the quiet room. In solitude, she questions her own decision to undertake such a reckless plan. She admits she cannot fight like Erden, but resolves that she must do what she can. Facing her reflection, she accepts that she might die, but is determined to protect the people of Halstead. Doubt creeps in as she looks at her hands, wondering if she can truly succeed. She clenches her fist, steeling her resolve and telling herself she must protect the castle, no matter what. The scene shifts to a group of people, including Casaro and the castle's staff, gathered before a sun-drenched forest. An attendant asks Leticia if she knows where the stone golems are hiding. Thud, thud, thud. Leticia explains they've likely passed the Tomb of Spiders and are blending in with the forest trees. Rustle. A stone golem's foot appears from the foliage as someone asks what the sound is. A stone golem emerges, saying he heard a sound and surprising Leticia's party. Another golem spots the group, pointing and asking if they are humans. Leticia realizes with a shock that these golems are much larger than Kirax. Thud. Thud. The golems see the humans and wonder if they are the castle inhabitants Kirax mentioned. Thud. Thud. More golems appear, excitedly spotting the humans and calling them over. Thud. Thud. Now surrounded, Leticia and her attendant stand their ground as the golems gather. The small group of humans is completely encircled by a massive tribe of stone golems in the forest. The overwhelming number of stone golems looms over Leticia's small party in the clearing. The golems question the humans' presence, suspecting they're the people Kirax spoke of. A golem notes the humans' weapons, and another asks if they should just kill them now. Leticia confidently raises a gloved hand, signaling for their attention. With a commanding expression, Leticia orders the approaching golems to stop. An angry golem confronts her, demanding to know who she is to give them orders. Collapsed Leticia strikes a pose as her attendants all fall to the ground, leaving the golems bewildered. With a nervous expression, Leticia internally prays that her desperate bluff will work. She addresses the golems, claiming she took control of Halstead and its lord ages ago, confusing them. Leticia glares menacingly, calling them lowly beasts for daring to be insolent before the great devil herself. The stone golems are stunned by her declaration, questioning her title and her insult. Leticia smirks, challenging the golems by asking if they don't believe her claim. Fush Casaro immediately plays along, throwing her hands up and hailing the great devil of the red flame. The golems begin to believe the act, while Leticia internally notes how dense they truly are. Leticia and the elder woman exchange subtle thumbs up, confirming their plan is working. Leticia feigns disappointment, sighing that she was excited to finally hear news of war after 7 years. She questions the golems, asking why they are dawdling here instead of attacking Halstead. A golem tells her she'll have to wait a bit for the battle to begin. Another golem shoves his companion, telling him not to be such a pushover. The assertive golem says that if she has to wait, then she'll have to entertain him. Leticia calls out to Alexa, who immediately responds, "Yes, my lady." Leticia reveals a bag overflowing with 100 gleaming gold denias. Wow, the golem's eyes widen in greed as Leticia tells them it's a fortune they'll never see again. Crying theatrically, Leticia says this is all the castle has, internally apologizing to Erden for the expense. Ketting. She dismisses the money as lowly and flips a coin nonchalantly. With a sly smile, Leticia suggests she could have a little fun with the gold. Poke. One golem nudges another, Asking how she plans to have fun with the money, Leticia proposes her idea. They will make a wager on the outcome of a battle. A narrative panel explains stone golems are defined by their insatiable greed for money. Leticia thinks to herself, planning to lead them to self-destruction through what she calls sports gambling. The golems are completely baffled by her terminology, and Leticia is amazed at their denseness. She simplifies her offer. Defeat 5 Halstead soldiers, and they win all the money. As her attendants feign terror, she asks the golems if they accept the bet of 5 humans versus 100 of them. The golems cheer loudly, eagerly accepting her seemingly lopsided wager. Wahoo! As the golems celebrate, Leticia quietly apologizes to her terrified, trembling attendants. Boom! A golem's foot smashes the ground right next to a soldier, who yelps in fear. Stomp, stomp, stomp. The golem gives chase as the terrified soldier flees for his life. Bam! Another stomp narrowly misses the attendant, who tumbles to the ground with a cry. Plop. The soldier collapses dramatically, leaving the golem confused, as it hadn't even touched him. Seeing 2 more soldiers already dead on the ground, the golems realize they are just acting. Leticia internally marvels at her attendant's acting skills as she gleefully shouts for the golems to kill the last one to win the prize. Grah! The stone golems roar, one demanding to know where the last soldier is, while another greedily claims the money for himself. The golem's greed turns on itself as one argues they should split the money, only to be called an idiot by his companion. The golem explains that splitting the prize would only give each of them 1 denia, so he's taking it all, shocking the other. Leticia watches in stunned silence, realizing her plan is working too easily, as a golem vows to kill another for a bigger share. Pow! A powerful blow lands with a devastating impact. Fueled by greed, one stone golem viciously punches another, shattering part of his face. Crumble! The struck golem touches his broken cheek in disbelief, stammering that his own ally just hit him. Leticia urgently orders her attendants to retreat, as the aggressive golem threatens to smash his companion's head and take all the money. Squabble. The golems descend into a chaotic brawl, challenging each other to death while one feebly protests they shouldn't fight. From her hiding spot, Kasaro joins the act, yelling that the golems are idiots and she will be the one to kill them for the money. Safely away from the fray, Leticia confirms her attendants are unhurt and dryly compliments the idiots for fighting so well. Wham! The sounds of battle intensify as the stone golems brutally strike each other down. Clunk! A heavy axe slices clean through a golem's torso, ending him. Panting heavily, a single, bloodied golem stands victorious amidst the shattered remains of his comrades. The survivor realizes, with a gasp, that he's killed them all, convinced the prize money is now his alone. As the golem turns to claim his reward from the great devil, Leticia coolly informs him that's not going to happen. The golem's eyes widen in shock as the sharp point of an arrow is aimed directly at his face. With a determined wink, Leticia draws a bow, taking careful aim at the last surviving stone golem. The lone survivor catches his breath, muttering that he killed them all and the money is finally his. Staring down the arrowhead, the golem stammers in confusion, unable to comprehend what is happening. Leticia holds her aim steady, her eye narrowed in focus as she prepares to release the arrow. Twang! She lets the arrow fly, sending it speeding directly towards the final golem. Crumble! The last golem shatters into countless pieces under the force of Leticia's shot. Phew, Leticia lowers her bow and breathes a deep sigh of relief. Kasaro, the elder woman, and the other attendants erupt in cheers, congratulating Leticia on her victory. Plop! The adrenaline fading, Leticia collapses from exhaustion, and her attendants rush to her side. Sob! Overwhelmed with relief and fear, Leticia breaks down in tears as the elder woman watches with concern. Wah! Leticia, Kasaro, and the elders share a tearful group hug, celebrating their survival. Surveying the piles of rubble, Leticia asks if any golems escaped, but an attendant confirms they are all destroyed. The attendant presents a glowing life stone, reporting they've collected exactly 100, proving none survived. After confirming the stones are valuable, Leticia orders them saved, prompting her staff to muse on her frugal nature. The elder woman asks when Leticia learned archery, and she explains that she asked someone named Romina to teach her. Leticia smiles, explaining she wanted to be prepared to help in situations just like this one. She adds that she read great Karahan lords should lead from the front, leaving the elder woman speechless. An attendant runs up, holding a caged bird, announcing that they have found the enemy's messenger. Leticia examines a note from the bird, realizing it's how the golems communicated with Kurax, and may reveal their plans. Reading the message, she learns the golems couldn't find the castle due to a fog and correctly suspected the Great Devil's involvement. Realizing Kirax is already watching them, Leticia asks Alexa how long the Terror of Troy will last. Alexa gives them 2 days at most. Leticia declares that with the Centuria defeated, they must now face Kirax before the protective artifact fails. Her attendants listen grimly as Leticia commands them to prepare everyone for battle upon their return to the castle. Leticia stares ahead with resolve, stating that the battle will begin the moment the Terror of Troy loses its power. The scene shifts to a sunlit, majestic view of Halstead Castle, standing ready. Inside, the castle staff busily prepares for war, moving supplies and carrying makeshift weapons. 2 castle maids now stand as guards, holding spears with determined looks on their faces. Even young children contribute to the war effort, struggling to carry heavy cannonballs. Leticia reasons that Kirax must now believe his reinforcements are waiting in ambush, making an all-out battle inevitable. The elder woman approaches Leticia with a heavy, cloth-wrapped object, urging her to take it. Unwrapping it, Leticia discovers a beautifully crafted suit of armor, which the elder woman insists she wear for safety. While agreeing she must project an image of fearlessness, Leticia accepts the armor as the elder woman looks on with concern. Leticia offers a sincere smile, thanking a man named Bastian for worrying about her. Bastian looks back at her, his expression heavy with unspoken concern. He closes his eyes and reflects that while the last 7 years felt long, the time also flew by. Bastian marvels that he never could have imagined her small, frail body would one day save them all. He fondly recalls his relief when she began to grow, remembering her simple kindness toward a fallen bird. He contrasts her gentle nature with Erden's warrior past, flashing back to her terror when a bird fell into a fireplace. Bastian admits with a heavy heart that he always wished she could have stayed a little girl forever. Confused by his sudden solemnity, Leticia asks Bastian what prompted his words. Looking down with deep respect, Bastian tells her with conviction, "My lady, you're special." Leticia listens intently, her expression serious as she processes his heartfelt declaration. A memory surfaces of Erden vowing to drive out devils to create a safer world for the weak but extraordinary. The two stand opposite each other, sharing a quiet and meaningful moment. Kneeling before her, Bastian takes Leticia's hands and earnestly asks her to make him a promise. With desperate eyes, he begs her to run away if she ever finds herself in true danger. Leticia vehemently refuses to abandon the castle, but Bastian argues her life is irreplaceable and worries that the Lord may be in trouble. Touched by his fierce loyalty, Leticia's eyes well with tears as she whispers his name. Overcome with emotion, Bastian bows his head over her hands and makes one last, desperate plea. Looking down at the devoted Bastian, Leticia solemnly gives her word, "I promise." Boom! A deep resonance shakes the room as Bastian realizes with alarm that the Terror of Troy is failing. Boom! Outside, an attendant urgently shouts for everyone to get ready, announcing the castle will soon be revealed. Bastian turns his gaze toward the ornate, glowing door housing the failing artifact. The elder woman appears, stating grimly that they can no longer hide or run away. Crack! The purple gem at the heart of the magical device shatters, its power finally spent. As the artifact breaks, the magical fog concealing Halstead Castle dissipates, revealing it to the world. The blue-skinned commander spots the newly visible fortress and bellows, "That's the Halstead Castle! Everyone, get in formation!" A hand gestures forward with silent, resolute command. "Let's go, Bastian," Leticia says with quiet determination, taking him by surprise. Taking her hand, Bastian agrees, and together they walk toward the light, ready to face the enemy. A tender memory surfaces of a younger Bastian, leading a small Leticia by the hand. In the grand hall, Bastian supports Leticia as they share a final, quiet moment before the battle. Leticia walks forward with purpose, leading Bastian and her other loyal attendants toward the castle walls. They arrive at the battlements, standing together as they gaze out at the approaching enemy forces. With her hair blowing in the wind, Leticia's expression is one of pure, unshakable resolve. Her eyes gleam with fierce determination, ready for the fight to come. Whoosh! As the wind whips around her on the ramparts, the enemy commander and his forces look up at her. A determined young fighter leaps into action, surrounded by a vortex of swirling energy. The enemy commander gazes up at the lone figure, identifying her as the famous Lady Halstead. Flanked by Bastian and the elder woman, Leticia presents a small but defiant front against the invaders. The commander raises a hand, his voice booming as he calls upon the Centuria. Pointing directly at the castle gates, he gives the final command. "Charge!" The commander reaches the castle entrance, but halts in confusion, finding the path forward unexpectedly empty. He and his soldier look around bewildered, wondering where the defenders are hiding, while he calls out again for the Centuria. From the ramparts above, Leticia's voice rings out, calling the commander by name, Kirax. Surprised, Kirax and his stone soldiers turn their attention upward toward the voice. Beside Leticia, the elder woman holds up a large sack. As Leticia taunts the commander, "Are you looking for these?" Clatter. She upends the bag, and the glowing life stones of the defeated Centuria rain down from the castle walls. Kirax and his soldiers stare in utter disbelief, stammering as they recognize the life stones of their reinforcements. Murmurs of fear spread through the ranks as the soldiers conclude that Lord Halstead must have made a pact with the Great Devil. Kirax feels something is off about the situation, and a soldier asks him to explain. He ponders that if Lady Halstead is the Great Devil, then what does that make Lord Halstead? Kirax reasons that contracted parties usually stay together, so the Lord's absence is a major disadvantage for them. He concludes that the Halsteads are either trying to trick his forces or are genuinely vulnerable, believing they have a chance. Kirax shouts for everyone to charge the castle. From the ramparts, Leticia, Bastion, and Alexa watch the enemies advance with alarmed expressions. Kasara reports that the enemy is attacking despite losing the Centuria, prompting Leticia to order a full-on counterattack. On the castle walls, a line of determined archers draws their bows, taking aim at the approaching horde. Gra! The enemy soldiers surge forward, ready for battle. FWP, upon command, the archers release a volley of arrows toward the charging enemy. Whoosh! At the same time, defenders fire a massive projectile from a catapult on the battlements. Crash! The volley of projectiles lands with devastating force amidst the enemy soldiers. Boom! A massive figure stomps forward, unfazed by the initial barrage. Crash! The giant golem smashes through the castle's outer defenses with immense force. Sway! The impact shakes the castle walls, causing the archers to cry out and lose their footing. Thud! The golem continues its assault on the main gate, as a defender shouts that they are trying to brute force their way in. Stomp! A powerful figure runs through the battlefield, swinging a massive blade. FWIP. Wabam! With a single, devastating strike, he cleaves a golem in two. The powerful warrior stands obscured in a cloud of dust after his attack. As the dust settles, the warrior is revealed to be a grim-faced Bastion. A colossal, shadowy golem looms directly behind the unsuspecting Bastion. Leticia screams his name from the walls, desperately trying to warn him of the imminent danger. Snatched before Bastion can react, a giant stone hand closes around him. The massive golem lifts Bastion effortlessly, its menacing eyes glowing red. Clench. The golem tightens its grip, beginning to crush Bastion in its powerful fist. Bastion cries out in agony while Leticia screams his name in pure horror. FWIP. Suddenly, Kasaro leaps through the air, dual-wielding daggers and aiming for the golem. Shank. He lands on the golem's arm, plunging his blade deep into the stone. The golem roars as its arm shatters, releasing Bastion, and Kasaro lands nimbly on his feet. Kasaro turns to face Bastion, who is now safe on the ground. With a smirk, Kasaro casually asks Bastion if he has lost his touch. Bastion retorts that he is still just getting warmed up for the fight. Kasaro agrees, noting that it's no wonder since they haven't fought together in a while. Alexa suddenly appears behind them, sword in hand, angrily asking the enemy how they dare. Glaring fiercely, she questions their audacity to attack the castle while the Lord is away. She draws her sword, defiantly challenging the invaders and asking if they truly think they can win. Kasaro notes that Alexa is fired up, while Bastion mutters with concern about her high blood pressure. Alexa declares that these lowly, shameless creatures need to be taught a lesson. Raising her sword, she lets out a powerful cry, rallying the warriors of Halstead. From the wall, Leticia watches the three veteran fighters with a look of utter astonishment. The three warriors stand united, roaring that their enemies can never defeat them. With her sword pointed forward, Alexa passionately commands everyone to protect their castle and their home. Alexa gives the final rousing order to charge as a volley of arrows rains down from above. Filled with renewed vigor, Alexa leads the loyal staff of Halstead into the heart of the battle. Thud. Boom. The defenders work together, using heavy ropes to topple the giant golems. Alexa continues to direct the battle, urging her forces forward. Leticia draws her bow once more, her hair whipping wildly as she focuses her aim. Thwack! Her arrow finds its mark just as a soldier pulls a rope taut around a golem's neck. Leticia pants from exertion, noticing that the sky is growing dark as the battle rages on. Looking at her own bloodied and trembling hand, she realizes that Casaro, Alexa, Bastian, and all the soldiers must be completely exhausted. Seeing the defenders are worn out, Kirax rallies his soldiers and orders another attack. On the castle walls, Alexa orders the Halstead forces to retreat inside for now. Stomp! Stomp! The defenders flee in terror as the enemy pursues them relentlessly. The exhausted Halstead soldiers help their wounded comrades retreat through the castle gates. Leaning against a wall, a bloodied soldier gasps for breath, exhausted from the fighting. A woman with vibrant red hair rushes down the stairs, anxiously calling out for Casaro. Clutching a bloody wound, Casaro weakly reassures his lady that it's just a little scratch. The woman speaks his name with concern, but he vows they will protect the castle by any means necessary. She realizes their situation is dire and wonders desperately what they should do now. Bam! An enemy soldier begins to pound relentlessly on the main gate. Boom! The woman looks up in alarm as the deafening sound of the assault echoes through the hall. Boom. 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 The repeated blows shake the castle as soldiers cry out in fear while she and Casaro watch the gate tremble. My secretly hot husband. A credits page lists the creative team behind the story. Boom, boom, boom. From the stairs, the woman and Casaro watch helplessly as the gate continues to take a beating. Boom! Outside, Kirax bellows for his forces to smash all the doors and walls. Boom, boom! As debris falls around them, Casaro asks her if she thinks the walls can hold. Boom! Boom! He grimly admits that while their walls are strong, they won't last if the beasts keep pushing. The woman calls out to Bastian, who looks back at her and gives a solemn, understanding nod. Bastian desperately pleads for her to flee, but she places a hand on the rampart, telling herself to calm down. Grit. She closes her eyes, mustering her resolve for what's to come. An internal voice spurs her on. Think, Leticia. Leticia asks Bastian where the dungeon escape route leads, and he tells her it opens into the southeastern mountain areas. Leticia gives a clear command: gather simple weapons and provisions, then evacuate the elderly and children first. What about you, my lady? Bastian asks in a panic, but she states she will only leave after everyone else is safe. After she pleads with him to go, Bastian reluctantly agrees to follow her orders. On the ramparts, Leticia steels herself, knowing she must buy as much time as possible. Shing. With swift purpose, she knocks an arrow. Whoosh! She draws her bow, her gaze locked on the enemy. FFFT. Standing alone on the wall, Leticia holds her aim, ready to fire. Reaching for another arrow, she realizes her quiver is empty and cries out, I'm out! Bastian rushes to her side, informing her the evacuation has just begun and begging her to come with them. Leticia looks on in anguish, the strain of the long battle showing on her face. Bam! An enemy continues to batter a door, determined to break through. Her bow clatters to the ground as Leticia collapses from exhaustion, while Bastian cries for her to hurry. Her bloodied hands tremble violently from fatigue and strain. Suddenly, Leticia looks up, her eyes widening in shock. Boom! The main gate is finally smashed open by an invading soldier. Boom! As the chaos erupts, Leticia gazes up at the full moon. Boom! Her expression turns to one of despair as she stares ahead. Boom! The moon hangs high in the sparkling, cloud-filled sky. Boom! Leticia closes her eyes, bracing for the inevitable. Scree. A piercing, otherworldly shriek cuts through the night air. Her eyes snap open, her expression shifting from despair to shock. Screech. A magnificent dragon soars across the night sky, silhouetted against the full moon. Leticia and Bastian stare upward, completely stunned by the unbelievable sight. Soldiers below shout in amazement, recognizing the two-winged dragon as a symbol of Halstead, leaving Leticia speechless. As she gazes at the majestic creature, Leticia wonders to herself, could... A glimmer of hope and realization dawns in her eye. Tadak, Tadak. A lone figure on horseback gallops swiftly through the night. Tadak, Tadak. A lone rider in a horned helmet gallops furiously through a desolate landscape. Leticia stares in disbelief as the mysterious armored rider approaches the castle. The rider's face is concealed by an imposing dark helmet, his eyes glowing with purple light. A message asks readers to support the official release. A credits page thanks the creative team. From the castle walls, Leticia cries out a name with all her might. Erden. Hearing his name, the rider Erden is startled mid-gallop. Leticia whispers his name again, realizing the dragon must be his doing. The Halstead staff erupts in joy, recognizing the dragon as their sigil and shouting, "The Lord is back." Stunned by this development, Kurax can only utter, "What?" With tears of relief, Leticia echoes the sentiment, "The Lord is back." Lexa and Bastion share a look of renewed determination, ready to re-enter the fight. Enraged, Kurax orders all his units to attack Lord Halstead, whom he dismissively calls a little boy. Erden stands his ground as the enemy forces charge towards him. Raising a spear, Erden prepares to meet the oncoming horde alone. In a flash of movement, Erden unleashes a devastatingly swift attack. His projectile strikes an enemy soldier square in the face. The soldier is instantly killed as Erden rides onward without breaking stride. Kurax steps forward, sneeringly challenging Erden to face him. Erden discards his spear and draws a long, elegant sword. He leaps from his horse, soaring through the air to strike Kurax from above. Crash Kurax blocks the attack with his massive spiked mace, the impact shaking the ground. Erden gracefully evades a counterswing, landing perfectly poised for his next move. An enemy soldier screams, "Die," as Kurax prepares another furious assault. Erden calmly calls Kurax's attack still slow, leaving his opponent stunned by his speed. Erden dashes past Kurax in a blur, his blade finding its mark. His grip is firm on the hilt of his sword after the powerful slash. He lands a deep gash across Kurax's back, drawing blood. Erden stands over his fallen foe, seemingly victorious. He pauses for a moment, his masked gaze fixed forward. He looks up towards the castle, his attention drawn to Leticia watching from the walls. Through his helmet, Erden expresses his shock and concern. "Lady." Suddenly, a colossal, shadowy figure with glowing eyes materializes behind Erden. Leticia screams in terror as Erden turns in shock to face the new threat. Uwag! A giant enemy brings a massive club down on the unsuspecting Erden. The blow connects with brutal force, shattering the ground around him. Kurax, now revealed as the giant, smirks triumphantly, gloating that he's caught him. With a furious cry, Kurax brings his spiked mace down for a finishing blow. From the battlements, Leticia screams Erden's name in absolute horror. Desperate, Leticia runs down the castle steps to get closer to the fight. Kurax grabs the wounded Erden by his head, lifting him effortlessly. Erden chokes in Kurax's powerful grip, unable to break free. Kurax reveals he has been waiting for this day, savoring his moment of revenge. His one desire is to kill Erden, but he's interrupted by Leticia charging in on horseback. Ah! Her horse throws her to the ground, and she cries out as she lands hard. Wounded and bleeding, Erden collapses to the ground, defeated. Kurax looks down at the fallen Erden, and then turns his attention to Leticia. He grabs Leticia's ankle, mocking her for not being the great demon he expected. Lifting her into the air, Kurax furiously questions how a mere human dared to interfere. Erden struggles to rise, desperately shouting for Kurax to let her go. Held upside down, Leticia struggles furiously, demanding Kurax let her go. Kurax vows to crush Leticia before killing Erden, but she defiantly stabs him with the sword. Ajarax roars in pain, but dismisses her attack as a trivial human effort. From the ground, a furious Erden vows to kill all of his enemies. With a cry of exertion, Leticia yanks the sword free, breaking Kurax's grip on her. Kurax stumbles back in agony as Leticia lands, ready to continue the fight. Erden warns her to be careful as she steels herself for another attack. Wah! With a powerful scream, Leticia brings the sword down on Kurax's head. A blinding flash of light erupts as her blade strikes true, shattering his head. Leticia stands firm, her sword held steady as Kurax's body begins to crumble. Thud. As Kurax's remains hit the ground, Leticia stands amidst the falling debris. A single glowing black stone clatters to the ground from the giant's defeated form. The enemy soldiers stare in disbelief, shouting that Kurax is dead, while Leticia looks on in a daze. Believing Kurax was killed by the great demon, the enemy forces panic and flee. Leticia declares victory for Halstead as Erden watches her, and she finally lets out a sigh of relief. His fight over, Erden's bloodied hand lets go, and his sword falls to the ground. Leticia runs forward as narration reflects on the time that had frozen like winter. Finally again, as a tearful Leticia runs towards Erden, she leaps into his arms, embracing him in a powerful, emotional reunion. The Halstead staff watches from a distance, weeping with joy and relief. Erden holds Leticia tightly, his hand resting gently on her head as she cries. The scene shifts to the Halstead castle, bright and peaceful under a clear blue sky. Leticia slowly awakens in a sunlit bed, looking around with a dazed expression. Sitting up, She wonders when she fell asleep and tries to recall the events of the previous day. A comedic flashback shows her aggressively hugging a very flustered Erden. The staff panics in the flashback, crying out for their lady as she clings to a stiff Erden. Cringing, Leticia worries that Bastion will think she was being silly. Her eyes widen as she notices something. She looks down at her own bandaged hands, wondering who tended to her wounds. Hearing a slight rustle, she turns her head with a questioning look. She is stunned to see Erden slumped in a chair by her bedside, fast asleep. He holds a roll of bandages and scissors, revealing he was the one who treated her. She looks between her hands and him, realizing with conviction that he cared for her. She reaches a bandaged hand toward his helmet, thinking he is beyond her grasp. She confirms to herself that this moment is real, not a dream or a vision. She suddenly grabs his arm, pulling him forward and startling them both. He pulls her forward in a swift motion, sending the bed curtains fluttering. In a single movement, he pulls her onto his lap, leaving her speechless and flustered. Panicked, Erden immediately apologizes for startling her and waking her up. He explains that living in the dark world has made him hyper-alert, which she nervously accepts. Leticia blushes, thinking that after 7 years apart, Erden must be feeling awkward too. Noticing his physique, she observes that he seems to have changed a lot. She recalls her big discourtesy from the previous day, remembering how she ran to him. She gasps, suddenly wondering if he remembers it clearly. A faint memory of their embrace flashes through her mind. Realizing she initiated the embrace, she pounds the bed in embarrassment, shouting that she ran first. Erden calmly states he hadn't expected her to still be in Halstead. Leticia looks at him, confused by his words. He admits he assumed she'd have left and was thrilled she was still there. She realizes his words are sincere. He bashfully adds that seeing his wife on horseback was fascinating, and that she hasn't changed at all. In a rocky canyon, two bald soldiers look up in confusion. Stunned, they stare as a hooded figure pulses with bright blue energy. A massive, draconic creature with a glowing blue eye is revealed, as a blindfolded Leticia stands resolutely before it. The soldiers recoil in terror, pointing as a monstrous shadow with sharp teeth looms over them. A great dragon perches on a cliff, its wings spread wide against the sky, with Leticia riding triumphantly on its back. Dressed in ornate armor, Leticia looks on calmly as an unseen observer realizes in horror that she is with a great devil. The terrified realization sinks in. This is the great devil. Leticia's green eyes are filled with unshakable determination. A crowd of soldiers stares in disbelief, shouting that the rumors were all true. As Leticia and Erden stand together, the soldiers realize the Lord of Halstead has truly made a contract with a great devil. Leticia's expression softens with a hint of concern. In a brief flashback, a younger Leticia is told by an older woman to wear tight armor. Back in the present, Leticia coughs, steeling herself to follow the strategy and thanking her grandma. With fiery determination, she shouts a challenge to the stone golem of Balatza, declaring her intent to conquer their castle. The soldiers are baffled by her declaration just before they begin turning to stone. She recalls Erden's advice to take the castle rather than destroy it, as a tiny, masked version of him blushes and calls her his wife. Leticia grins wickedly, announcing her intent to enjoy a massacre, and hoping the fighters remain at Balatza. Now completely petrified, the stone soldiers let out silent screams of terror. As she and Erden fly away on the dragon, she taunts the soldiers, telling them to pray before they meet Kirax in hell. Leticia's maniacal laughter echoes as they depart, leaving the stone soldiers frozen below. Hiding nearby, two other soldiers panic, with one frantically asking what to do, and the other screaming for them to run. When asked where to run, the soldier points, insisting they must go north. His companion has a sudden moment of understanding. From behind the rocks, a group of well-dressed individuals spy on the fleeing soldiers. An older woman with spectacles notes that their operation might work and quietly orders her troops to move. Nearby, a man with a monocle gestures for complete silence. A large contingent of soldiers in blue uniforms move stealthily through the canyon. Their footsteps are quiet as they advance on their mission. A woman with a distinctive eye patch states that all that's left is to wait at the designated location. The older woman and the man with the monocle watch with focused determination. Hours earlier in Halstead, Leticia explains her plan, noting the spider's tomb is an impassable fortress perfect for a trap where they can act as poison. An advisor questions the plan, while another worries their numbers are still too low, even after defeating Kirax and the stone golem. Leticia reveals the key to controlling the stone golem is to break their strong solidarity. She points to a book, reminding them they've already successfully used this tactic once. An advisor agrees that with the enemy leaders gone, their morale is likely shattered, which is why they requested devil support. Leticia explains their goal is to instill fear, introducing a small, cute dragon as the key to their plan. Erden elaborates that the surviving stone golem will have spread terror, which they can now maximize. The strategy is to use dragons to fly over the spider tombs, luring the enemy toward the castle of Balatza or forcing them to flee. By filling the now empty canyon with their own soldiers, they will trap the enemy in Balatza like a rat in a jar. Leticia confidently asks her forces to buy time outside while Erden infiltrates the castle to retrieve the artifacts. Her loyal followers, including Erden, nod in firm agreement. The little dragon affectionately licks Leticia's cheek. Erden suggests the small dragon needs a name, catching Leticia by surprise. He insists they can't keep calling him that guy, as the creature lovingly nuzzles her hand. Erden proposes they name the dragon after his mission to conquer Balatza and retrieve the artifacts. Leticia loves the idea, and the little dragon peeks out excitedly. Wah! Leticia joyfully tells the little dragon he's finally getting a name, and he celebrates with her. Erden watches Leticia's pure excitement with a quiet, steady gaze. He then turns to her and asks why she decided to personally take part in the dangerous mission. Erden says he must return to the castle to see the butler, expressing his gratitude for Valhannes. Leticia excitedly clarifies that Valhannes is the dragon's name, which will allow them to fly back. Erden beams at the name's charm, and Leticia encourages him, saying it's better to laugh. Suddenly, a glowing blue butterfly lands near his ear, startling him with its appearance. He identifies it as a glass butterfly, a revelation that piques Leticia's curiosity. Awestruck by its beauty, Leticia gently reaches out to touch the magical creature. Erden watches the butterfly shrink, noting they were thought to be extinct in the desolate northern lands. Leticia points ahead, excitedly telling Erden she can see the glowing traces of more butterflies. He spots their likely source in a glowing cave and suggests they follow the trail. They venture into the cavern, led by the solitary glowing butterfly. As they round a corner, both Leticia and Erden stop, staring ahead in shared astonishment. They discover a massive cavern filled with countless glass butterflies trapped inside large, chained cages. Standing together, they quietly take in the beautiful yet tragic sight before them. Erden realizes someone named Balatza was collecting the butterflies and questions their purpose. He speculates that they were being used to create an artifact, or to prevent new fairies from being born. Holding a lone, fragile butterfly in her gauntlet, Leticia sadly calls the situation a pity. Clank. A hand resolutely grabs the heavy chains, locking one of the cages. The cage is opened, and a brilliant cascade of butterflies is released into the cave. Leticia watches with pure joy as the freed butterflies flutter around them. Her hand reaches out, beckoning the magical creatures closer. Surrounded by the glowing swarm, she smiles with unrestrained happiness. Erden watches her, his expression softening as he takes in the beautiful scene. He gently takes her outstretched hand in his, sharing the quiet, magical moment. In a dark castle, an older man with a cap cautiously descends a long flight of stairs. He presses his hand against the stone wall, feeling for a hidden mechanism. His fingers find an ornate plaque, activating a hidden passage or trigger. Using a stool, he stands before a grand statue of a horned figure and a woman. He reaches up and carefully removes the horned helmet from the male statue. The man examines the stolen helmet with a grim and determined expression. Clutching the helmet, he scurries away, a long, rat-like tail visible behind him. A flashback begins, showing a featureless face shrouded in shadow and memory. The man from before tells a young Erden that the mask was his father's, and he should wear it for now. He hands the fearsome, red-eyed mask to a somber, younger Erden. Erden looks down at the mask in his hands, lost in silent contemplation. The man notices his silence and asks him what's the matter. Erden explains he was trying to smell his father's scent, glad the mask didn't rust in the dungeon. The man, Isaac, asks Erden if he can remember his father's face. Isaac explains that a childhood illness left him blind, so he only remembers his father's touch. Erden recalls his father's warmth and strength before asking Isaac why he brought it up. Isaac looks deeply troubled, asking Erden if he is aware of what happened with his wife. Erden reveals she saw his face, causing Isaac to recoil in absolute shock and disbelief. Isaac urgently asks Erden what she said after seeing him without his mask. Erden quietly recalls her words to him, "I am not a monster." Isaac processes this, realizing she looked at him directly and felt no fear. He declares her a great person for her bravery, and Erden blushes in agreement. Erden looks down, reflecting on her unexpected and profound kindness. He admits that, strangely, he feels very at ease, much to Isaac's confusion. Looking at his own reflection, Erden confesses he used to hide from people, fearing their reactions. He thinks back to his wife's face, remembering her features and her kind expression. Lost in the memory, he recalls with a soft smile that she gave him a smile. Erden thinks to himself that he loves his wife's smile and hopes she keeps that look forever. Isaac watches with a somber and pensive expression. Covering his face, Isaac tells Erden that their world is full of lies. He continues his thought while working on armor, saying that truth is the most valuable thing, no matter how ugly. In a lavish room, Leticia reads a book, pondering the fact that demons are easily seduced by beautiful things. Distracted from her reading, she wonders why a particular scene keeps replaying in her mind, preventing her from concentrating. She recalls a vivid memory of Erden's handsome, flustered face surrounded by flowers. Thump. Overwhelmed, she slams her head onto the open book in frustration. Blushing, she rereads the passage about demons being dazzled by beautiful or sparkling things. She erupts in a frantic chibi outburst, admitting he's too handsome and she thinks she likes him because of his face. She suddenly stops her frantic movements, caught in a moment of confused realization. Blushing, she quietly admits to herself that she likes Erden, but then panics, wondering if he likes her too. Poof! Her thoughts explode in a burst of sheer panic. Looking into a basin of water, she tells herself to calm down. She reminds herself that even though they've been married, a sudden, painful memory reminds her that Erden is writing a divorce. Staring at her troubled reflection, she sadly wonders if her love is one-sided. She turns away from the water, contemplating a future where she might continue her marriage with Erden, her thoughts trailing off as she imagines it. Her imagination immediately conjures a massive, fiery explosion over a castle. Bang, bang, bang. She frantically bangs a hand mirror against a table, yelling at herself for her crazy thoughts. An attendant with a monocle appears, startled, and asks if something has happened. Panting, Leticia nervously claims she was just exercising, much to the attendant's confusion. The attendant approaches, asking Leticia what the matter is. She holds up an envelope, announcing that a letter has arrived from Beeson. Leticia takes the sealed letter, questioning why she would receive one from Beeson, while the attendant admits she doesn't know. Reading the letter over Leticia's shoulder, the attendant dismisses the pleasantries and asks for the main point. Leticia's eyes widen in absolute shock as she processes the letter's contents. The attendant's monocle nearly pops off as she gasps in disbelief. The letter's shocking message is revealed, an invitation to a ball. Both Leticia and the attendant stare at the letter, stunned by the unexpected news. The scene momentarily pauses, breaking the narrative flow. Elsewhere, Erden stands before a font of water, his fearsome mask resting on a nearby table. He reaches down, looking at his unmasked reflection in the clear, sparkling water. He rises, sighing as he contemplates his true appearance. He thinks of his wife, wondering how she could look so calm after seeing a face like his. Glancing at his mask, he quietly wonders how it was possible. A flashback shows a young, horned Erden asking his mother if she hates his father or is bothered by his face, and if people fear him. His mother smiles warmly, reassuring him that no one, including her, cares what he looks like, as she gently takes his hand. She lovingly tells him his kind heart is what makes people love him, and those who see it will always stay by his side. In the present, Erden reflects silently on his mother's comforting words. Knock, knock. A voice calls his name from behind the closed doors. He flinches in shock, blushing as he realizes his wife is asking to come in. Leticia waits at the door, confused as she hears him frantically tell her to wait a moment. Panicked, Erden scrambles for his mask, realizing he doesn't have it on. Ah! He trips while rushing, and both he and Leticia cry out in surprise at the sudden crash. He stumbles and falls to the glittering floor, as Leticia sits frozen outside the door. Erden frantically apologizes while covering his face, but Leticia clarifies she closed her eyes because he's too dazzling, not scary. He realizes his mask has fallen away as Leticia urgently grabs his arm, telling him to wait. He kneels on the floor, looking up at Leticia with a vulnerable expression as she holds his arm. With a determined blush, Leticia asks Erden to let her see his face. Her sudden, earnest request leaves Erden completely stunned. As he kneels before her, she holds his arm, waiting for his answer. His hand moves towards the floor to retrieve his fallen mask. He pauses, his gloved fingers hovering just above the horned helmet. With a deep blush, Erden quietly agrees to her request. Changing the subject, Leticia asks him what he was doing out so late. Now sitting by a fire, Erden begins to explain the situation regarding Bison Castle. He reveals that an invitation has arrived, as Halstead's recent activities have not gone unnoticed. Erden correctly assumes the invitation is for a demon hunt, though he questions the choice of location. He explains that the Bison family has a long history as highly trained demon hunters. He considers the event a rare opportunity to gather information and find allies for Halstead. Leticia urges him to go, suggesting the growing power of Demon Archduke Belial has forced others to act. She asks if many demon hunters will be there, and Erden confirms the guests are all allies of the Bison family. Leticia expresses concern that such a gathering might be dangerous, which confuses Erden. She clarifies that a concentration of demon hunters would be an irresistible target for demons. Erden smiles, reassuring her that the artifacts protecting Bison Castle are incredibly powerful. He explains the castle is a sanctuary where all demonic power is nullified, a fact Leticia finds almost too incredible to be true. Despite the castle's safety, Erden warns they must be cautious of raids during their journey there. To avoid being targeted, he proposes they travel incognito, blending in with commoners. The thought of traveling alone together makes Leticia blush, as it feels like a date. Erden continues planning their route while Leticia listens, lost in thought. When he asks what's on her mind, she brushes it off, looking quietly determined. Days later, a cloaked Leticia and Erden are informed by an attendant that their carriage to the capital is ready. Leticia reminds the attendant, Alexa, of a secret task she was given, much to Erden's confusion. Waving from the departing carriage, Leticia promises they will return. Alexa and another servant wave them off from the castle gates. Inside the carriage, Erden lets out a heavy sigh while holding his mask. He confesses to Leticia that he still hasn't gotten used to his new mask, making her blush. Seeing her adorable, love-struck expression, Erden worries that she might be feeling sick. He panics, asking if his appearance is frightening her, but she vehemently denies it. After reassuring him, she quickly pivots, asking about the expansion of Demon Archduke Belial's power. Erden reveals that Belial has recently established a casino for demons and monsters nearby. Known as the Suzhong Palace, it's a glamorous epicenter of nightly gambling and drinking. He explains that the palaces serve to make the region's demons more active. Deep in thought, Leticia asks if there's anything unusual about this particular casino. Admitting her own curiosity, she captures Erden's attention with her inquisitive gaze. With a bright, adventurous smile, Leticia suggests they go and see it for themselves. Her sudden and daring proposal leaves Erden completely baffled. In their minds, the glamorous palace transforms into a sinister den of demonic energy. The narrative pauses for a brief moment. Shock, Erden is stunned by her wish to visit the Crystal Palace, but Leticia insists it's the right course of action. She reasons that blending in with demons would be far safer than trying to hide among humans. She explains they would stand out among humans, whereas no one would ever suspect them of willingly entering a demon's lair. Impressed by her logic, Erden admits he'd never considered it, as Leticia asks for the palace's location. He unfolds a map, showing the palace lies within the wasteland, a more direct but perilous route than going around. He worries for her safety, noting that while his mask allows him to blend in, she has no disguise. As he hesitates, she acknowledges the plan is unexpected but trails off mysteriously. In response to his concern, she reveals an elegant masquerade mask she had commissioned. With firm resolve, she declares that if she is to go with him, she will represent Halstead with pride. Watching Leticia, Erden thinks of his wife with a determined gaze. He clenches his fist, resolving to protect her from this dangerous situation himself. With hardened eyes, Erden's resolve to protect Leticia solidifies. Inside the carriage, Leticia muses that Count Basin's demon hunting performance is poor, perhaps to prolong their alliance. Erden remarks on Count Basin's wealth, while Leticia worriedly questions who could afford to be a patron in these difficult times. Erden listens silently, a flicker of understanding in his eyes. Leticia finds the Crystal Palace's story increasingly strange, questioning why the region is so quiet when demons should be running rampant. Staring at her reflection, she observes that the land is strangely peaceful. Erden suggests the demons are distracted by the Crystal Palace, finding it contradictory for a devil to create peace. He notes the decline in demon hunting suspiciously coincides with the palace's appearance. Swoosh. As their carriage travels through a downpour, a voice sarcastically comments on the lovely weather. A goat-like demon driving the carriage glumly assumes the rain will keep customers away. Disguised in cloaks and masks, Erden and Leticia stand together in the pouring rain. The driver asks if they are heading to the Crystal Palace, and Erden confirms they are. The driver enthusiastically invites them aboard, and Leticia notes with relief that their disguises are working. Their small carriage makes its way through the vast, rain-soaked fields. Spotting a dark fortress in the distance, Leticia asks if it's the Crystal Palace. The driver corrects her, identifying it as the Diamond Castle and guessing they are from far away. Erden confirms they are from the south. The driver wishes them a good time as Leticia realizes their destination is closer than she thought. Whoa! The driver suddenly pulls on the reins with his clawed hands. Turning back with a grin, the driver announces their arrival. The carriage has stopped before a gnarled, leafless tree standing in a small lake. The driver excitedly asks if it's their first time visiting the Crystal Palace. He points to the tree, instructing them to walk to the middle of the lake to find the palace. The driver reassures them that everyone is confused at first, recalling it took hours to explain to previous visitors. A stunned Leticia questions his instructions to walk on the lake. Wishing them well, the driver departs to find more passengers. Leticia hesitantly steps onto the water's surface, her shoe creating ripples but not sinking. She looks down in utter shock, wondering how it's possible. As they both stand on the water, she marvels that she can walk on it. When she asks how, Erden explains they are near a dimension gap, a place where strange phenomena are common. Reaching the center of the lake, Leticia notes that she still can't see anything. She calls out to Erden, telling him to look, but he is momentarily confused. Looking down, Leticia points out the tree has no reflection, which Erden agrees is very strange. Tumble! Suddenly losing her balance, Leticia begins to fall with a sharp scream. Splash! Erden shouts in panic as they both plunge into the water. He cries out for his wife as they disappear beneath the surface. Submerged in glowing water, Leticia is shocked to realize she can breathe. Erden's voice gently urges her to open her eyes. Her eyes fly open in disbelief as she finds them standing under a starry night sky. Held safely by Erden, she wonders how they were transported there. They stand by the same tree, now surrounded by a galaxy as she notices what looks like rain falling. Leticia looks closer and realizes it can't be rain. Splash! She realizes with a gasp that it's raining backwards. They are under an upside-down lake. Erden directs her attention forward, where a stunning sight leaves her speechless. A magnificent crystalline palace materializes before them, and Erden announces their arrival. The story pauses for a brief, colorful interlude. Gazing at the breathtaking structure, Leticia whispers in awe. Erden confirms that this is the Crystal Palace as Leticia stares, completely mesmerized. As they ascend a crystal staircase, Leticia notes how well hidden the palace is, much to Erden's surprise. Before the grand entrance, she marvels at the extravagant and amazing architecture. Erden winces, thinking of the immense cost, while Leticia questions his pained reaction. Suddenly, an angry cat-like demon demands entry, asking the staff if they know who she is. Watching the commotion, Leticia wonders if there are entry restrictions for the fancy palace. A pig-like attendant informs the fuming demon that her admission fee is less valuable than others. She and her male cat-like companion stare in disbelief, exclaiming, "No way!" Ta-da! A glowing vintage Polaroid camera is revealed as her supposedly unique and beautiful offering. The attendant offers to show her what other guests brought, and Leticia seems to recognize the concept. Shine! He presents an almond chocolate bar, describing its jewel-like paper and lightweight. Proudly, he explains the delicious, sweet food inside as Leticia looks on knowingly. He then presents a plastic bottle, which captivates the attention of the onlookers. HWIK thud. To demonstrate its resilience, he throws the transparent bottle hard against the floor. The bottle remains unbroken, and its contents secure, amazing the cat-like couple. The attendant deems the demon's camera dull and shabby, telling her to find a better admission fee. Leticia intervenes, and the attendant asks if she has brought an item from another world. With gold flecks swirling around her, she simply answers, "No." Denied entry, Leticia proposes a deal. She will explain how to use the camera if he lets them both in. The cat-like demon questions if Leticia can actually use the device and what it's for. Erden quietly asks if she knows of the camera from a previous life, but she silences him with a gesture. Leticia asks the curious cat-like couple to stay still for a moment. Wah! A bright flash from the camera startles the demons as she takes their picture, believing they were attacked. The male demon shouts in fury. Leticia calmly clarifies it wasn't an attack and presents the camera, telling them to look. Holding up the blank photo, she calls it magical and tells the confused couple to wait. An image of the startled cat-like demons miraculously appears on the paper. Wow, Shock. The onlookers are stunned as the couple marvels at the magic box's detailed and quick work. Leticia thoughtfully concludes that the Crystal Palace's judgment is highly irrational. The pig-like attendant bows deeply, profusely apologizing for his ignorance and declaring her item far more valuable. He grants all four of them entry. As a relieved, Leticia admits she was glad there was film inside. The female cat-like demon acknowledges Leticia's knowledge of the world, admitting she misjudged her. Promising to see her again, the demon formally welcomes Leticia to the Crystal Palace. As a heavy door creaks open, Leticia reflects on the irony of them being considered evil creatures. The doors open to reveal a dazzling, crystalline casino hall bustling with patrons. Awestruck by the grand hall, Leticia correctly guesses this must be the main building. She looks around the casino floor, surprised to see humans mingling with the demons. The scene shifts to a lavishly stocked bar, where various patrons are enjoying drinks. "Milady," the pig-like attendant rushes over, apologizing for not recognizing her significance earlier. When a confused Leticia asks if he's talking to her, he praises her knowledge of high civilizations. He offers to guide her to a separate VIP room for discussing such topics with other interested guests. A mysterious figure holds an elegant purple fan with a lace-gloved hand. The attendant eagerly offers to guide them, while Erden proudly boasts of his wife's supreme knowledge. They are led to a grand curtained doorway, flanked by two minotaur-like guards in tuxedos. Swoosh! Inside, the attendant leads them down a hallway and gestures towards a private curtained room. Erden gestures for Leticia to enter the dark curtained room ahead of him. A spotlight reveals a lone man performing an elegant dance on a pole for a seated audience. From the shadows, patrons watch the dancer while enjoying drinks. The performer continues his mesmerizing and athletic pole dance under the bright spotlight. A silver-haired woman exhales smoke from a long pipe, ominously stating the banquet is a trap. An unseen voice reveals they have instructed powerful figures to destroy Halstead, leaving Erden and Leticia in shock.